Chapter 1950. Understanding the Tao and its Principles. Zhu Wuji is walking on the path of violent sound waves. He understands thunderous sound wave strength. He can shout and kill people. The great imperial bell emits an explosive strength. The last 50 people on the imperial ranking list can't ask for their path, the watchers told one another. They understood the rules of the event. Some people were going to progress on their path, some others not. At that moment, Lin Feng was shaking violently. His muscles twitched. He had the impression he was going to die. The weaker people would be eliminated immediately. Someone exploded, blood gushed out, and he fell from the top of the pillar. Arg, arg, arg. People roared furiously with pain. Many people were hurled away. They couldn't stand the Tao power. Ho Qing Lin released reincarnation Tao to surround his body. The Tao power couldn't pierce through. Dugu the winner was surrounded by lights. Thunder rang out, and Tao power bombarded his imprints, but couldn't pierce through. Lang Yi was surrounded by world lights. He was in another world, the attack didn't affect him. Jian Mang was surrounded by light swords, the Tao power couldn't affect him either. The strong cultivators at the top of the celestial imperial pillars resisted the Tao power. The weakest ones were struck relentlessly, injured, or killed. At that moment, Zhu Wuji shouted furiously. He kept attacking the bell, which kept counterattacking. Zhu Wuji was suddenly hurled backwards, coughing up blood. He landed back on his pillar. He sat down cross-legged, injured and trying to recover. The terrifying Tao power disappeared. Silhouettes rose up in the air. The pillars of those who had been smashed away were now free. They were too weak to resist against Tao power. Their fate had already been determined. They couldn't ask for their path anymore. Of course, they could ask their counterparts from the ranking list for pieces of advice. It was the Pathfinder Day of the Imperial ranking list. People could ask for their path, understand Tao principles, and comprehend how to progress on the path. The strong cultivators of the great imperial palace kept writing. People looked at the cultivators at the bottom of the list, who wouldn't be able to rise up in the list anymore unless they displayed extraordinary performances after the event. That great imperial bell is so strange. Its Tao power counterattacks are powerful. Zhu Wuji was even injured, thought Lin Feng. That bell was indeed a precious treasure. Who else wants to try and ask for their path? Astron Tianxing. Someone new rose up in the air. It was Jin Xingzi. People frowned. He was in the top 10 and controlled destructive gold Tao power. His Tao was terrifying. How many people would resist his Tao on the celestial imperial pillars? Let's see how many people will resist, and how strange the great imperial bell is. Jin Xingzi proclaimed. His robe fluttered violently as he turned into a dazzling golden figure. The crowd stared at him. Some people sat down cross-legged again and released qi. They were getting ready to resist Jin Xingzi's golden Tao. Jin Xingzi was extremely strong and had an explosive strength. If anyone was careless, they could die. Jin Xingzi was surrounded by golden armor. He walked to the bell, waving his hands. His Tao power emitted whistling sounds as he hammered the bell. A mysterious Tao power rolled out from the impact. Lin Feng's expression changed drastically. His arm started turning into gold before he released qi and broke it. Disperse. Lin Feng released Devamara Culpa's strength to protect himself. He also used his physical strength. Jin Xingzi had turned into a statue of gold. He didn't look like a human being anymore. He attacked the bell 3 times and 3 times, golden light beams shot out. Explosion and rumbling sounds spread in the air. A strong cultivator turned into a golden statue and exploded, dead. Back. Some people knew they would die, so they ran away and jumped off the pillar. Some people rise, some people die, said someone in a solemn and respectful way. However, that cultivator remained motionless and let the golden energy surround him. He was gambling with his life. He was there to progress on the path. The bell rang again. Jin Xingzi's silhouette became distorted, like he could explode at any time. However, he looked determined and stood there steadily. His qi rolled in waves furiously and dashed to the skies. Everyone was astonished. His Tao power had just broken through. Jin Xingzi was suffering though, and his figure was also distorted. It looked like he could explode too. The Tao power there was more violent than when it arrived at the pillars, and he was at the front of it. He attacked the bell again. The bell counterattacked. Jin Xingzi's golden armor broke, his arm crackled. It was getting very dangerous. "That's enough," shouted someone loudly. A dozen cultivators at the top of the pillars were suffering too much. Some people thought Jin Xingzi was going insane. They wanted him to stop. However, the explosive shout didn't prevent Jin Xingzi from continuing. He continued as if he hadn't heard anything. His body kept crackling as he continued his insane attack. Someone else's body started crackling, and they died. Jin Xingzi raised his arm again. The crowd started suffocating. However, at that moment he finally stopped. It was too dangerous, even for him. "Today, I'm not here only to ask for my path. I'm also here to watch and learn from others," said Jin Xingzi, sighing. Many people took a deep breath with relief. However, 32 people had already been blown away and 2 had died. How cruel! Those people were strong cultivators from the imperial ranking list. All of them were talented, but they had died because of the Tao power. The cultivators who were in the top 10 were terrifying. In a one-on-one battle, they could kill those at the bottom of the list in one strike. At that moment, Lin Feng closed his eyes. Culpa strength twinkled around him, and a golden chi appeared. He opened his eyes and took a deep breath. He understood that today wasn't about fighting. It was about something that went beyond a simple fight. A strong wind started blowing. Xie Yu landed in front of the bell and punched it violently. A terrifying evil energy rolled out and corroded people's bodies, trying to rot them away. After Jin Xingzi's turn, it was difficult to resist him. Xie Yu's decaying qi made them start rotting. A vile stench filled the air. Evil decaying Tao power was terrifying. Ji Chang released destructive Tao. All those cultivators' Tao couldn't affect him. He seemed indestructible. Ying Cheng released chaotic Tao power. A vortex appeared around him and the decaying Tao strength disappeared into the vortex. The stone cultivator seemed invincible too. Xue Shenfeng was surrounded by snowflakes. The Tao power kept freezing. Someone else drew people's attention. Chu Chunqiu. He didn't do anything, he just absorbed the Tao power and made it flow throughout his body. The top 10 are terrifying. The Tao power of the Great Imperial Bell doesn't affect them at all. Who would win in one-on-ones? Speculated the audience very quickly. Even more people were forced away from the pillars. After such a short time, only 50 people were left. Chapter 1951. Slaughtering Xie Yu knocked the bell, and another dozen cultivators fell off the celestial imperial pillars. The top 50 had already appeared. Lang Yi, Dugu the winner, the blind guy, and the one who controls reincarnation strength are quite persistent and determined. They're going to end up in the top 50-something. The crowd was saying as they watched the fighters. Ho Qing Lin was a little bit higher than 50th since many people had already been eliminated. At that moment, another silhouette jumped forwards. This cultivator controlled snow energy, and snowflakes appeared around him, the temperature falling rapidly. Xue Shenfeng walked over to the Great Imperial Bell and said coldly, "Great Imperial Bell, let me find my path and become stronger." His sleeves fluttered in the wind as ice and frost energies bombarded the bell. The bell rang and a layer of ice appeared around it with the sound of ice cracking. A few silhouettes were immediately frozen. Xue Shenfeng attacked the bell 3 times in a row. The space around him kept freezing. 2 more cultivators turned into ice statues, their hearts beating slower and slower. "Back!" shouted one of the frozen people furiously. He jumped away, the layer of ice around him cracked and he left the pillar. He instantly felt better, as he had almost died. Xue Shenfeng's face was covered with snow as his own Tao power kept bombarding him. He didn't stop though. He jumped forwards again, and the bell kept ringing. Some strong cultivators continued to leave their pillars. The last 50 cultivators were already determined they wouldn't be able to rise in the ranking list anymore. Some of them had even died and would never have an opportunity again. Xue Shenfeng looked like an ice statue already. He could sense his own terrifying Tao power as he was being attacked by his own strength. The Great Imperial Bell rang 7 more times. There was a thick layer of snow Dao power on Xue Shenfeng's body, and the whole stage was frozen. The cracking of frozen air kept creaking out. Some of the cultivators of the top 50 also started freezing. Maybe their rank would change, of course. It meant that those who were lower in the ranking list would also have an opportunity to rise. At the foot of the stage, the crowd was getting cold even as they were amazed. Xue Shenfeng was astonishingly strong. Because of him, more than 60 people's ranks were already fixed. Is he going to make the bell ring an 8th time? The people looked at Xue Shenfeng and were stunned as he slowly raised his arm and bombarded the great imperial bell again. Dao power bombarded Xue Shenfeng again, the pressure driving him backwards and down onto his butt. The ice energy turned into a destructive ice lake, covering the stage with ice. People descended from the celestial imperial pillars one after another. The crowd realized that only 30 people were left on the pillars. Lin Feng was still calmly seated on his pillar. His eyes were closed and he was surrounded by Death Dao intent and Snow Dao power. He felt extremely cold too, but he started understanding what it meant to find one's path. The stage was frozen over, and the ice remained for a very long time. The members of the Great Imperial Palace didn't say anything and ignored the way it hindered the audience. After a while, the ice energies around Xue Shenfeng dispersed and he withdrew to his pillar. Those on the pillars looked hesitant. What would happen if those who were higher ranked than Xue Shenfeng bombarded the bell? Wouldn't it be even more terrifying? Those watching didn't even dare to imagine. If you don't ask for your path, how can you master Dao strength? Murmured someone to themselves before jumping off a pillar. Finding one's own path was extremely complicated. It was an incredible opportunity they had before them. There were many strong cultivators in the imperial ranking list, and now they had the opportunity to understand Dao's strength even better. How could they miss that opportunity? It was dangerous, but it was also a great chance. Those who were at the bottom of the imperial ranking list couldn't even ask for their path. They could only watch and learn. The stone man finally moved, landing in front of the bell. The crowd was startled, as Shi Yunfeng had turned into a stone man again. He looked strange and monstrous. And then he punched the bell. He punched the bell 4 times in a row. The ice hadn't completely dispersed, but when he punched the bell, it disappeared completely. The air was suddenly filled with stone energies. At the same time, many people started turning into stone statues, their arms starting to turn into stony matter. They couldn't move anymore. Those people's faces turned deathly pale. The stone man punched the bell twice again. Some people turned into statues. His stone strength was terrifying. The bell rang a 7th time, and the air seemed to groan and grind. Some stone statues immediately exploded as those people died. More people turned into stones and couldn't move. Some others managed to leave the pillars using their full strength. Lin Feng had turned into a stone statue. He had the sensation his body was going to explode, but at the same time, his physical strength was astonishing. Nobody there could compete with him in terms of physical strength. More destructive strength oppressed him, and he condensed more cosmic energies, his entire body starting to glow. He looked like an indestructible ancient god. When he started bleeding, he controlled life and death Dao power. He couldn't block the stone's strength directly, he had to use his pure physical strength to block it. Yet at the same time, he could still study it. There are still so many people. How annoying. Geely looked at the crowd with his pale white eyes. After Shi Yunfeng withdrew, Geely left his pillar floating in the air like a ghost. His eyes looked terrifying as 2 light beams emerged from them and stuck the bell. The space around him turned into hell. Many ghosts appeared in people's brains, bearing fangs and brandishing claws. The ghosts wanted to kill everyone. Geely is the most evil cultivator of the imperial ranking list. He understands the Ghost's Sutra. The crowd was shuddering with fear. Geely looked dreadful as he attacked into the bell. More ghosts appeared in people's brains and wailed. A terrifying ghost king appeared in Lin Feng's brain. His soul shook violently. The ghost wanted to kill him. Die. His soul turned into a death sword and cut the ghost apart instantly. However, the sound of the bell ringing out, and more ghosts appeared in his brain. He had the sensation he was surrounded by ghosts. Geely is the third cultivator on the imperial ranking list. He's extremely strong, thought Lin Feng. At that moment, he didn't know that several people had already died on top of the pillars, their souls destroyed. And Geely didn't stop, more and more ghosts appeared in everybody's brains. The ancient bell kept ringing. He's slaughtering people, thought the crowd. They were astonished and shaking violently. Geely was killing the ranked cultivators. People who could escape did so, but those who couldn't seemed to be dying one after another. Geely was very strong, and few people could compete with him. His Tao power was destroying them. Only a dozen cultivators could resist Geely's Tao power. The bell rang an 8th time. Ghosts wailed furiously, their horrible shrieks spreading in the air. People's faces stiffened. Some people in the distance looked furious, as among the people who were dying, some were from very prestigious clans, and Geely was slaughtering them. None of the people who were on the imperial ranking list were weak, they were all geniuses of the Huangqi layer. But the crowd was now reminded that there could be huge differences between cultivators of the Huangqi layer, to the extent that one person could slaughter so many geniuses easily. Chapter 1952. Death Funeral Bell. When the bell rang an 8th time, a cultivator's soul exploded instantly. A terrifying ghost had appeared in his brain and destroyed him instantly. How ferocious and cruel. Geely looked like a terrifying ghost. His own soul was shaking violently as a demoniac ghost bearing fangs and brandishing claws appeared there. The ghost was trying to kill its master. All things are of monad nature, but differ in form. In the end, nothing is indestructible, swore Geely icily. His eyes were magnetic as more ghostly light beams pierced through the bell. Someone gave a horrible shriek and died, not having the time to react before a ghost killed him. So many people had already left their pillars, including some people who were in the top 20. Lin Feng's head was surrounded by terrifying death lights which kept rotating. He looked like a motionless and indestructible mountain. Geely's mouth was bleeding, drops of blood fell onto his sleeves as he went back to his pillar. At that moment, just over 20 people were left. Many of the people who were better ranked than Lin Feng had already left. The members of the Great Imperial Palace continued modifying the list. Lin Feng's rank increased. They also removed some people from the imperial ranking list and replaced them with other names. It was shocking in its heartlessness. So many people had died, this event was brutal and cruel. Many people couldn't ask for their path anymore. Only a few people could compete with Geely. The crowd looked at Ji Chang and Ning Cheng. What would happen if they knocked the bell? It would be terrifying. Would it be worse than Geely? Ji Chang glanced at the others, and most especially at Lin Feng. Then he jumped forwards and landed in front of the bell. Ding 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 ding. The great imperial bell rang shrilly a few times, and a terrifying destructive strength rolled out. The air shook violently, as did those left on the pillars. Their muscles twitched, and they had the impression their brains were going to explode. It was extremely painful. Dang dang. Ji Chang continued striking the bell. Some people were hurled away from the pillars, unable to withstand the pressure. They had to be careful or they would die. Dang. When the bell rang an 8th time, 2 people had no time to escape and exploded instantly. They wanted to escape from their physical body with their soul, but the waves from the bell also crushed their souls. Piss off, shouted Ji Chang explosively, staring at Lin Feng. Destructive Tao continued rolling out. Lin Feng kept shaking. His muscles twitched, and even his bones felt sore. Lin Feng's eyes were closed. He let the strong wind brush against his body, but remained motionless. His cosmic energies intertwined and turned into strange ancient imprints surrounding his whole body. The air crackled as it was destroyed by the Tao power as well. Ji Chang looked proud. He jumped forward again and released more destructive Tao at the bell. The air started to explode as more destructive energies rolled out again. Many of those left coughed up blood. One of the cultivators jumped off the pillar. Even the cultivators of the top 10 looked anxious. Lin Feng's ancient imprints exploded, and his body crackled. He released more strength, the Tao power finally weakened, and Lin Feng recovered. Ji Chang glared at Lin Feng ferociously and went back to the second pillar. He looked imposing and awe-inspiring. He made the great imperial bell ring 10 times, but he hasn't used his full strength, otherwise he could have made it ring more, was the crowd's assessment. Ji Chang was really terrifyingly strong, and Lin Feng was his main target. Everybody knew that Lin Feng had fought against him on the day of his champion ceremony. Ji Chang was furious that he hadn't managed to drive Lin Feng away. When the Dao power dispersed, the remaining cultivators calmed down. Lin Feng looked aloof and serene. He was already 13th on the imperial ranking list. The crowd looked at the list. Apart from those who were high up in the imperial ranking list, the other names had all changed. This Pathfinder Day really shook the whole city. Ren Tianxing remained silent for a few seconds and then said to the 13, "Who wants to use the bell?" Many people looked at Ing Cheng, but Ing Cheng didn't seem like he wanted to act. Some other people who were farther down in the ranking list knocked the bell, but their Dao wasn't powerful enough to affect the other cultivators. The crowd kept thinking about Ji Chang and Geely. The Great Imperial Bell is a bit like the celestial Pathfinder plates of the Milky Way battlefield. What kind of special power does it contain? Thought Lin Feng as he finally jumped down to the bell. Many people were staring at him. Lin Feng released Death Dao Determination. He stretched out his hand, his death lights rotated at full strength and then crashed onto the bell. The bell sounded just like a funeral bell ringing. It didn't affect the crowd, however. They just sensed a few threads of death energy. Dang! Lin Feng punched the bell again. A thread of death strength spread in every direction. He also sensed his own death strength. A strong wind started blowing. Lin Feng continued punching the bell and sensing the strange and mysterious sound waves. He didn't realize, but slowly, a strong death wind had started blowing. The crowd started feeling colder and colder. They slowly sensed the Death Dao power building higher and higher. The bell rang 6 times. The Death Qi started whistling. The air was filled with more and more death energy. The Death Dao power surrounded people and started penetrating into their souls. Some people started becoming gray as the Death Qi corroded their bodies. They felt colder and colder as their very life was attacked. It was a funeral bell. The Dao strength wasn't evil like Geely's Dao, and it wasn't explosive like Ji Chang's Dao, but it was slow and sly. When the bell rang for the 7th time, the terrifying death wind became as sharp as blades. People's faces turned deathly pale. Many people had the impression that they were dying. The bell rang for the 8th time. Some people instantly died. Some others groaned with pain and collapsed softly. They had hesitated to leave, but now it was too late. Some people were petrified and staring at Lin Feng. He had already made the bell ring 8 times. Death Qi flew throughout Lin Feng's body and penetrated into his soul. Lin Feng sensed that the death strength was corroding his body. However, he looked determined and steady. He took a step forwards again. Many of those remaining jumped away when they saw that. How scary would the 9th strike be? The funeral bell rang again. A wave of death strength rolled out above the stage. Some people collapsed, dead. Some other people fell down on their knees and felt weak, furious at Lin Feng. What an insane guy. Death strength. Lin Feng calmly sensed the death strength. He sensed the death qi flowing throughout his body, but in the end, it turned into vitality. He was walking on the path of life and death, not just death. His life was his death was his life. Death made him alive, life made him dead. The bell rang a 10th time. A tornado of death strength appeared. Ji Chang released terrifying amounts of destructive Dao to protect himself and managed to destroy some death strength, but some threads of still managed to pierce through his skin. His face turned gray. Lin Feng's robe and hair are fluttering violently. He struck the bell again and the sound waves moved towards Ji Chang. "Piss off," said Lin Feng in a voice of the devil. His death qi penetrated into Ji Chang's body again, who became even grayer. Chapter 1953, Competition for the Path. It was as if the bell had turned into an indestructible funeral bell. It kept resonating and death strength kept rolling out. People kept jumping off the pillars in terror. They hadn't thought that Lin Feng would make the bell ring 10 times. The death tornado was deadly. Ji Chang released even more destructive Dao strength to counter it. He had to act quickly. The death strength was corroding his body. At the same time, he also released his dazzling Cyan Dragon totems. He looked like a dragon king at that moment. "Empty words," said Ji Chang after he heard Lin Feng. Lin Feng closed his eyes. He was in the hurricane of death energy. The Dao intent gave him the impression that he was dead, as if he had lost his life and worldly affairs had nothing to do with him anymore. However, there were still threads of indestructible vitality in his body, like candles protecting his life. Some people rise, some people die. My path is about death, but how could I die? Death is my path, thought Lin Feng. Everyone was staring at Lin Feng. He raised his hand again. People's hearts were pounding furiously. "Piss off," shouted Lin Feng explosively again. It was the 12th time the bell rang. The air groaned with the weight of ages. Death energy crashed out like ocean waves and crashed onto Ji Chang's body. He had the impression he was going to die and immediately left the celestial imperial pillar, his face deathly pale. Ji Chang had had to leave or he would have died. He didn't want to gamble with his life, but what a humiliation. He had tried to make Lin Feng get down off the pillar and failed, but Lin Feng had managed to force him off. He had failed utterly. The path of life and death is difficult. It's difficult for people to control life and death strength. But since it's my path, how could it kill me? Otherwise, what would be the purpose of Dao strength anyway? Lin Feng murmured to himself. He released even more death Dao determination and struck the bell again. This time the air was howling with the end of times. An infinity of death lights illuminated the atmosphere and especially the 100 pillars. However, there was nobody there anymore. Everybody who could had left. They were all staring at Lin Feng. 13th time. Was he trying to commit suicide? Wondered the crowd. Lin Feng was already completely gray and motionless. He looked like a cadaver. Is he dead? The crowd was astonished and staring at Lin Feng. I've heard that some people sometimes died on the Pathfinder Day of the Imperial ranking list while asking for their path. I wouldn't have thought I'd see it with my own eyes today. Poor guy. Some people sighed. Lin Feng had managed to knock the bell 12 times. That was already astonishing, showing great talent. His understanding of the Dao was incredible. But the bell could kill him with his own Dao. However, at that moment, life strength rose up in the air. And then more and more life strength appeared and started rotating before turning into a strong wind. Green lights of life chi started twinkling all around Lin Feng. It was replacing the death strength. The crowd frowned. Lin Feng wasn't dead? He had knocked the bell 13 times and he hadn't died? He had even made everybody else leave the celestial imperial pillars. At that moment, Lin Feng suddenly opened his eyes, glowing with life. The thick death chi was all turning into life chi. It kept rotating and penetrating into Lin Feng's body. Lin Feng returned to his pillar. Everybody remained silent. The others hesitantly went back onto their pillars. Their hearts were pounding as they stared at Lin Feng. His Dao power was incredible. He wasn't weaker than those in the top 10, he might even be stronger. He could definitely pose a threat to the cultivators who were in the top 10. The eyes of the members of the Great Imperial Palace were glittering. Lin Feng had made the bell ring 13 times. It was an incredible achievement. Ren Tianxing moved forward and asked those remaining, "Does anybody else want to try?" They all remained silent. Nobody could do better than Gili, Ji Chang, and especially Lin Feng. He had made the bell ring 13 times. In the Golden Imperial ranking list, there were 20 gaps to fill, for all those who had died. It was shocking. This time, the Pathfinder Day had been cruel. But those who hadn't died had the impression they had learned a lot. Their Dao had become much better, especially Lin Feng. He felt like he understood Death Dao much better. He also realized it could be even more terrifying than he had ever imagined. The strong cultivators of the Great Imperial Palace flashed over to the bell and took it away. Then, Ren Tianxing said, "Among those who haven't died, the last 50 cultivators of the list can't ask for their path." Many people sighed. More than 20 people had died, and coupled with the 50 people who had failed, it meant that 70 people couldn't ask for their path. The crowd was humbled. Even some people who understood Dao's strength had missed their opportunity. Brother Dong Lai, you're in charge now, said Ren Tianxing to Pei Dong Lai. Pei Dong Lai nodded and said to the list members, the Pathfinder Day is about finding one's own path, about studying Dao's strength. Now, if you force a cultivator off his pillar, the cultivator and all those under him will be downgraded consequently. And if you don't manage to force anyone else off, then you'll stay at the end of the list. Now, the last one can ask for their path, said Pei Dong Lai, pointing at the 26th cultivator. That person jumped down in front of the others. If he didn't manage to force anyone off, he would stay 26th in the list. Lin Feng and the others remained at the top of the pillars. The emperor released his qi, which surrounded the whole stage. What a powerful intent. He must be from ancient university. Boom. Suddenly, the crowd saw a figure getting attacked. The man groaned icily as golden lights appeared and both fighters' energies collided. Destroy! Shouted the one who had been attacked. Instantly, the energies broke apart. The man who had attacked was stupefied. He glanced at the others, including Lin Feng. Even though Lin Feng's Dao intent was incredible, his cultivation level was low. He couldn't leave the celestial imperial pillar, otherwise he would lose. The man jumped towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng had the sensation kings were attacking him. Lin Feng smiled coldly. His cultivation level was too low, right? Suddenly, Lin Feng's eyes became gray and filled with death strength. Death swords emerged from his eyes and pierced through the attacker. He also stamped the man's soul. Instantly, the destructive energies broke apart. Die! Shouted Lin Feng explosively. Death energies condensed in his eyes. Death lights moved towards his opponent, and their energies collided. At the same time, Lin Feng also released a death sword. The man's face changed drastically and he retreated quickly. Gray death chi pierced through his body and ate away at his life. Lin Feng raised his hands and an ocean of death strength surged out. The cultivator released king fighters with a crash of imperial will, but they immediately disappeared in the face of the death energies. The death intent in Lin Feng's eyes was terrifying. The attacker's face turned gray, death swords kept impaling his head. He closed his eyes, his face started rotting and he collapsed. Those who provoke me must die. Lin Feng said icily. He was also warning other people that if they provoked him, he'd kill them. When the crowd saw that, they were astonished and shook violently. That guy was strong and insane. He had just killed the 26th cultivator. Lin Feng, shouted someone in the distance. Those people from the attacker's clan, and they were all furious. They wanted to kill him. However, Lin Feng was anything but worried. He still looked like a death god. This was a perpetual competition. Ji Chang had pissed Lin Feng off and he had forced him off the celestial imperial pillar. It was even worse if weaklings provoked him. Chapter 1954. Chu Chunqiu's strength. The crowd was astonished by Lin Feng's strength. He was amazingly strong for his level. The successive challengers didn't dare provoke Lin Feng anymore. The purpose of the competition was to find one's path. Cultivators didn't want to die. A dozen people challenged cultivators, and none of them dared challenge Lin Feng. Even if they managed to rank 11th or 12th, they'd have the occasion to find their path. Pei Dong Lai looked at Lin Feng, who was 13th at that moment. It's your turn now, Pei Dong Lai said to Lin Feng indifferently. Lin Feng nodded and jumped forwards. He glanced at the others as he asked, do I have to win to find my path? During this round, you can only challenge the 11th and 12th cultivators or above. Of course, even if you don't end up in the top 10, you'll have the opportunity to continue competing, replied Pei Dong Lai calmly. Lin Feng nodded. Lin Feng understood that only people who were under him in the ranking list could challenge him, so if he ranked first, everybody would be able to challenge him. He didn't want that. He needed to find a stable position in the ranking list to continue progressing. It wasn't an easy choice. Xie Yu, said Lin Feng. Xie Yu was the 8th cultivator. He controlled evil corrosion Dao. Lin Feng controlled death Dao. Destroying Xie Yu's Dao could be easier for him. However, Lin Feng didn't really understand how strong the 9th and 10th cultivators, respectively Jin Xingzi and Wang Zhong, were. Even if he managed to rise up to the 8th position, it wouldn't mean that the 9th and 10th cultivators were weaker than him. From the beginning, the top 10 hadn't changed too much, and it seemed that they tried to keep it that way. After a short time, they would start challenging each other, too. Lin Feng had to end up in the top 10 first, and for that he needed to kick someone out of the top 10, and Lin Feng didn't care who it was. Xie Yu frowned and looked at Lin Feng's eyes, which were filled with death strength. His expression suddenly changed. Lin Feng dared choose him. Suddenly, death energies emerged from Lin Feng's eyes and penetrated into Xie Yu's brain. In return, Xie Yu released evil corrosive strength, a seemingly endless amount of which surged towards Lin Feng. However, millions of death kulpa lights appeared around Lin Feng and blotted out the sky, destroying the corrosive strength at the same time. "I'll show you what it feels like to be dead," sneered Xie Yu icily. He shouted furiously, the color of the sky changing again. Everything around Lin Feng became pitch black. "Your Tao is not too bad," said Lin Feng, moving forwards. He released another death sword towards Xie Yu. At the same time, he waved his hands, and the air rumbled like opening graves as ancient imprints filled the air, shooting in Xie Yu's direction, drawing down the power of the earth and sky and clearing up the air. The decaying weight of an ocean of death energy gurgled and moved towards Xie Yu, nearly freezing him in place when he saw it coming. He made some hand seals, condensing his corrosive intent before it turned into a rain and the threads of corrosive evil energy collided with Lin Feng's death energy. "Get down!" An infinity of death intent washed over and ate away at Xie Yu's body. Lin Feng also released a Nihility death sword. It looked even more terrifying than it used to be. Ancient imprints appeared in the ocean of death energies and flowed along with it. When Xie Yu saw the ocean of death energy, he was dumbfounded. He was going to be swallowed if he didn't do anything. Xie Yu jumped away frantically. The crowd was stupefied at the sight. Lin Feng immediately jumped onto his pillar. He was now 8th. "Piece of trash," groaned Jin Xingzi. All the others below Lin Feng were downgraded one position, not just Jin Xingzi. The new 13th cultivator looked at the cultivators who were in the top 10 and sighed, "I don't care about the ranking list, I care about Dao." He chose to fight against Ying Cheng. A terrifying wind made of destructive Dao rolled towards him. The ground shook violently. Ying Cheng's eyes looked like dazzling stars. Explosions kept spreading in the air. The challenger retreated as Ying Cheng continued making hand seals. The wind made of destructive Dao was terrifying. "Piss off." A terrifying wave of energy crashed onto that cultivator's body, blood splashed, and he landed far in the distance, his face deathly pale. "You taught me a good lesson," sighed the man. He was still 13th. After that, it was the turn of the 12th cultivator, Chu Chunqiu. People's eyes were twinkling in anticipation. Chu Chunqiu was mysterious. They had all waited impatiently for this day. Who would he challenge? Suddenly, Chu Chunqiu looked at Yin Gutian, 7th in the ranking list, from the Yin clan. Yin Gutian's eyes were silver. Chu Chunqiu wanted to force him down in the ranking list. The crowd stared at the two of them. Chu Chunqiu rarely showed how strong he was, so nobody really knew how strong he was. His chi was now King Chi. Things would probably change for him on today. "Chu Chunqiu, are you sure?" said Yin Gutian. Dazzling silver lights started emerging from his eyes, and silver lights glittered. Chu Chunqiu took a step forwards and then started moving towards Yin Gutian. His eyes turned into two black holes. "Arg!" Chu Chunqiu looked like a king. Yin Gutian shuddered with fear as his soul shook. He had the sensation he was losing control over his soul and body. His willpower started flowing out of his body. There was an explosion as a terrifying sword made of ancient imperial intent moved towards him with overwhelming pressure. His will started breaking apart and he started bleeding. His face turned deathly pale. "Arg!" There was another explosion, and Yin Gutian had the sensation he was losing it, his soul was tearing apart. He wanted to leave his body with his soul. The sky turned silver. He tried to retreat, and finally jumped off the pillar. Everybody was staring at Chu Chunqiu, their hearts pounding excitedly. Chu Chunqiu was terrifyingly strong. Yin Gu Tian was the 7th cultivator in the ranking list, and he had just suffered a crushing defeat. Yin Gu Tian couldn't believe it. He had never been that scared. He was afraid of Chu Chunqiu now. Chu Chunqiu rolled up his sleeves and jumped up onto his pillar. Yin Gu Tian was staring at him, his face stiff. Chu Chunqiu is so strong, thought Lin Feng with a sigh. He had the premonition many things were going to change during this event. Chu Chunqiu was always discreet, but he was as strong as an ancient emperor and had King Qi. He was going to become a hero and rise today. Ying Cheng and Ji Chang were shocked too. They could barely understand that he had just risen up to the 7th position. What would their position be at the end of the event? Lin Feng was also downgraded to the 9th rank. Xie Yu, Jin Xingzi, and Wang Zhong were now under him in the list. Jin Xingzi and Wang Zhong were now 11th and 12th. Wang Zhong and Jin Xingzi looked at the cultivators who were above them in the list and took a deep breath. They were all extremely strong, and now that Lin Feng and Chu Chunqiu had risen up in the list, would anyone below them challenge them? Especially Chu Chunqiu, nobody would dare challenge him. At this moment, the top 10 were Ying Chen, Ji Chang, Gili, the Buddhist warrior, Shi Yunfeng, Xue Shenfeng, Chu Chunqiu, Yin Gu Tian, Lin Feng and Xie Yu. They were all terrifyingly strong. Jin Xingzi and Wang Zhong felt the pressure. Finally, Wang Zhong took a step forwards. He had to challenge someone. Chapter 1955. The top 10. Wang Zhong looked at the 10 cultivators. He didn't even consider challenging the cultivators of the top 5. Ying Cheng and Ji Chang were too strong, both were champions. Gili was too evil and knew the Ghost Sutra. The Stone Man, Shi Yunfeng, was incredibly strong. Xue Shenfeng was from the Snow Clan and Wang Zhong knew he couldn't defeat him. Chu Chunqiu was also too strong. So he could only choose among 3 people, Yin Gu Tian, Lin Feng, and Xie Yu. The audience was astonished at all this and kept gasping with amazement. These people were the strongest cultivators of the holy city among the people of the Huangqi layer, true geniuses. If they offended any of them, they'd die. Lin Feng had defeated Xie Yu, so he didn't want to challenge Lin Feng for now. He didn't have many choices. He looked at Xie Yu. Xie Yu looked back at him icily, turning furious. Wang Zhong wanted to fight against him? Lin Feng had already defeated him today. What is this supposed to mean? Said Xie Yu icily. Wang Zhong chopped out with his palm, and many armors appeared in the sky, all of them dazzling. Evil corrosion, shouted Xie Yu furiously. A furious dragon made of corrosive evil strength flew towards Wang Zhong, and the air above him turned into a black hole. 10,000 armors lights, shouted Wang Zhong extremely loudly. The armors twinkled and turned into a curtain which blotted out the sky. The dragon made of corrosive evil strength turned into many threads of energies and moved towards him. Destroy, shouted Wang Zhong icily. The armors became even more dazzling and the corrosive evil strength completely disappeared. Die! Wang Zhong waved his hands. The armors moved towards Xie Yu. One of the armors turned into a gigantic axe containing a terrifying earth strength. At the same time, the armors became even more dazzling, and the space around them started to distort. Is that Dao strength? Lin Feng was standing on the pillar next to Xie Yu's pillar, his eyes twinkling. He watched Wang Zhong's attacks carefully. Wang Zhong was from the noble Fang Tian clan. They were defense adepts. It was a very particular clan, a bit like the World Clan, as they controlled a special kind of strength. The World Clan controlled world strength, and the noble Fang Tian clan controlled armor strength. Lin Feng had never seen armor strength before or armor techniques. How powerful! Xie Yu was in danger. He was going to be defeated quickly, even if his corrosive strength was powerful. The battle was cruel and intense. Armor strength and corrosive evil strength kept colliding. Wang Zhong was gaining the advantage step by step, getting closer and closer to Xie Yu. Finally, his 10,000 armors exploded and Xie Yu was driven away. He was forced to give up his 10th position. Jin Xingzi moved down to the 12th pillar. How humiliating! He kept looking at Yin Gu Tian icily. The Huangjin clan and the Yin clan were rivals. One clan controlling gold energy, the other one silver energy, so naturally Jin Xingzi and Yin Gu Tian were rivals. Jin Xingzi then jumped towards Yin Gu Tian's pillar. Yin Gu Tian was furious. Chu Chunqiu had already humiliated him, so he had to regain his reputation. He couldn't lose against Jin Xingzi. Dazzling golden lights collided with the dazzling silver lights. The Huangjin clan controlled gold Dao, everything they touched could turn into gold, and their energies were destructive. Yin Gu Tian's Dao was very similar to Jin Xingzi's Dao. Their battle was even more intense than Wang Zhong and Xie Yu's battle. Jin Xingzi ended up at the top of the pillar fighting against Yin Gu Tian. One of Yin Gu Tian's arms became golden and exploded. Jin Xingzi suffered too. Half of his body had become silver and the silver strength was eating away at his body. Gold intent and silver intent were both dangerous. Jin Xingzi, leave, go and learn about cultivation, spat Yin Gu Tian. His eyes were silver and dazzling. It seemed he could turn anyone to silver if they looked at him. Even though Chu Chunqiu oppressed Yin Gu Tian is really strong. The Yin clan and the Huangjin clan are rivals. Yin Gu Tian was ranked better than Jin Xingzi, the great imperial palace was right. Yin Gu Tian is stronger than Jin Xingzi, was the admiring consensus of the audience. I would have never thought I'd be out of the top 10, Jin Xingzi sighed. He looked sad and disappointed. He initially wanted to try and rise up, but in the end he ended up in the 12th position. On the path of cultivation, if you don't progress quickly enough, you fall behind, and then at some point you can never catch up, thought the crowd, sighing with empathy for Jin Xingzi. He was strong, but the others were stronger than him. Chu Chunqiu had been in the holy city for a short time, but he could already defeat Yin Gu Tian. Many people believed he had the potential to end up in the top 5. Lin Feng used to be a nobody, and then he had become famous because he had fought against Ji Chang on the day of his champion ceremony. Lin Feng was the only medium-level emperor in the top 10 at that moment. He was definitely talented. Jin Xingzi was 12th and injured now. He couldn't possibly defeat anyone else in the top 10. Xie Yu had fallen behind in the ranking because he had been defeated, but he still had an opportunity to rise back up. But the crowd didn't think he would manage to rise again. Lin Feng and Wang Zhong were 9th and 10th respectively, it would be very difficult to defeat them. Yin Gu Tian was also stronger than he was. Xie Yu couldn't defeat Chu Chunqiu and the others, that was certain. Finally, Xie Yu decided to fight against Yin Gu Tian, who was 8th in the ranking. Yin Gu Tian's left arm had been broken after it was turned to gold. When Xie Yu chose to fight against Yin Gu Tian, the audience sighed. He didn't deserve to be in the top 10. Challenging someone injured proved he was a coward, he wasn't determined enough. And the most ridiculous part was that even against the wounded Yin Gu Tian, Xie Yu lost. Now he was 11th and wouldn't be able to reach the top 10. The top 10 was already fixed, the temporary ranking was Ying Cheng, Ji Chang, Gili, the Buddhist warrior, Shi Yunfeng, Xue Shenfeng, Chu Chunqiu, Yin Gu Tian, Lin Feng and Wang Zhong. Jin Xingzi and Xie Yu had been defeated and weren't in the top 10. Everybody looked at the golden ranking list. Those 10 geniuses were incredible. What would the final ranking look like? Yin Gu Tian was injured. He was probably going to be 8th, 9th or 10th. Lin Feng was really strong, but his cultivation level was lower than everybody else. He couldn't defeat Xue Shenfeng or the Stone Man. He was probably going to end up in 8th, 9th or 10th position too. Chu Chunqiu was incredibly strong, he was definitely going to end up in the top 10. At least, that's what the crowd thought. All those fighters were enigmatic and unfathomable, though. None of them had used their full strength yet. The following battles would be more serious. At that moment, Pei Donglai studied the 10 cultivators. Back then, he was also in the top 10. He remembered his Pathfinder day, but now, it was a new generation. These people were also incredible. Now I'm going to call people from the top 10, you'll have the opportunity to fight thrice. If you give up once, it means you agree to give up a position. If you give up 3 times, your position won't change anymore, Pei Donglai said slowly. He looked at Wang Zhong and said, Wang Zhong, will you fight against Gili? Wang Zhong frowned, then Pei Donglai continued, if you do and defeat him, you'll replace him. If you lose, you'll still be in the top 10. If you give up, I'll give you 2 more opportunities. People's eyes twinkled. The rules were cruel. If Wang Zhong accepted to fight and lost, he'd rank 10th. If he didn't fight, he'd have the opportunity to fight against someone under Geely in the ranking list. If you don't fight this time, you won't have the opportunity to fight someone higher than Geely in the ranking list, Pei Donglai said calmly. Wang Zhong didn't know what to think. Geely was 3rd in the rankings. Chapter 1956, Celestial Stage Deployment Spell, I Give Up, said Wang Zhong finally. Geely was the 3rd cultivator, and extremely strong. Nobody had managed to dethrone him from the 3rd position. Wang Zhong was aware that there was a huge cultivation level difference between them. Alright, your second chance is Chu Chunqiu, will you fight against him? Asked Pei Donglai. Wang Zhong was petrified and pulled a long face. Chu Chunqiu was currently the 7th cultivator, everybody had just been stunned by his strength. Pei Donglai is sly. That's tough for Wang Zhong, muttered the audience. Wang Zhong sighed. It seemed that he would only be able to rank 8th, 9th or 10th. But it didn't matter anymore, being in the top 10 was already great after all. Of course, if he managed to rank 8th or 9th, it'd be better than 10th. He refused to fight again. Alright, last opportunity, Lin Feng, Pei Donglai said calmly. Wang Zhong took a deep breath and nodded. He looked at Lin Feng, who was the 9th cultivator. If he managed to win against Lin Feng, maybe he would have the opportunity to rank 8th later on? Lin Feng's eyes glittered. He glanced at Pei Donglai and jumped off his pillar, landing in the center of the battle stage. Wang Zhong also landed in front of him. Noble Fang Tian clan, Wang Zhong, I am walking on the path of armor defense. I control armor strength. I can create armors and attack with them, Wang Zhong said to Lin Feng politely. Path of life and death. I control life and death strength, replied Lin Feng calmly. Many armors appeared around Wang Zhong. They were dazzling and they were twinkling marks on them. Lin Feng studied the mysterious strength of the noble Fang Tian clan. We'll see if my life or death is in your hands, said Wang Zhong evenly. He waved his hands, and the armors flickered and moved towards Lin Feng. They turned into light beams as sharp as swords and moved deceptively fast. Lin Feng flashed forwards, his life and death pattern appearing and transforming. Dazzling lights appeared in Lin Feng's 3rd eye. At the same time, he struck out with both hands, earth and demon cosmic energies condensed and turned into a shattering deployment spell. The marks it contained were perfect. Deployment spell. 2 deployment spells appeared under Lin Feng's feet, their marks intertwining. The life and death pattern and his deployment spell condensed. Those watching were astonished. Lin Feng was really an expert at casting deployment spells. He could condense deployment spells within a few seconds, and he used his godly awareness to transform them. Deployment spellcasters were legendary, their power deep and potentially explosive. Even though Lin Feng couldn't cast deployment spells instantly, he had been practicing for many years, and he had also studied the Celestial Evolution Holy Scriptures. With his physical strength and shattering deployment spell, the armors broke instantly. Wang Zhong didn't stop moving though. More armor lights moved towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng noticed that the armors contained the strength of different weapons such as blades, swords, axes, halberds, maces, or staves. It felt like those weapons wanted to strike out of the armors. Go, ordered Wang Zhong, waving his hands. The armors shot through the air in Lin Feng's direction and transformed into genuine weapons. The number of weapons blotted out the sky. Lin Feng grunted icily, stamping down his deployment spell. The air rumbled as a gigantic ancient imprint appeared and slammed down. All the weapons vanished when they collided with the ancient imprint. At the same time, the life and death pattern became even more terrifying as it arrived in front of Wang Zhong. Wang Zhong was startled, and a golden armor appeared around him. He started walking slowly towards Lin Feng, his armor floating around him. His defense is incredible, thought the crowd when they saw that. Wang Zhong was, after all, an expert at defense. Lin Feng still looked calm and unruffled as he also started towards Wang Zhong. His death energy turned into a river and flowed towards Wang Zhong, and his eyes were also filled with death intent. Wang Zhong felt as if that death intent was going to pierce through his eyes. Wang Zhong waved his hand, and another armor appeared and transformed. Golden lights appeared in front of him and prevented the river made of death energy from reaching him. Lin Feng continued moving forwards, and each time he made a step, his shattering lights transformed. Dazzling Devamara Kulpa strength started rotating around Lin Feng's body and began to condense. What a powerful qi! Lin Feng definitely belongs in the top 10, that's incredible. He understands Dao strength, but he's also an incredible fighter, thought the crowd. Wang Zhong was bathing in golden lights. Lin Feng was surrounded by demon lights and looked like an ancient demon god. Lin Feng's deployment spell kept transforming. Waves of multiple energies pulsed all around him. He's condensing force. Wang Zhong is also condensing force. If he releases his armor, it's going to explode. The watchers deduced. The two cultivators were slowly walking towards each other, their demon and golden lights already colliding. Energies kept flaring, and the watchers couldn't even open their eyes anymore because of the lights. How explosive will my attack be if my celestial stage deployment spell and my shattering deployment spell fuse together? Whispered Lin Feng. He condensed his demon Kulpa strength, which then fused together with his shattering deployment marks. It clearly became more explosive. The lights illuminated the whole area and emitted whistling sounds as they cut the air. It was like a celestial stage had appeared in front of Lin Feng. It had 9 levels, and each level had more terrifying demon lights than the previous one. Such beautiful deployment lights. The watchers gasped when they saw the soaring lights. The celestial stage deployment spell was one of the 3,000 deployment spells. Lin Feng only understood a few of them. The celestial stage deployment spell was a good deployment spell because it helped him improve his fighting and understanding abilities. It was excellent at helping attacks fuse together. Each of the 9 levels of the celestial stage deployment spell was more explosive than the previous one. When Wang Zhong saw that, he shouted furiously. He waved his hands, armor lights sang and shot towards Lin Feng. There were beautiful lights everywhere around both of them. However, within those resplendent and beautiful lights there were also demon lights. They looked like dazzling yet terrifying stars, brilliant points of destruction. But there were so many lights that the crowd couldn't see them clearly. They could only hear the rumbling and whistling sounds. Explosions thundered out, and Wang Zhong's armor shattered. The destructive lights pierced through his armor, reached him and smashed him away. He coughed out blood and crashed onto a pillar, heavily wounded. I won't need the life and death deployment spell in the air, mused Lin Feng. He recalled his life and death strength, and his life and death pattern dispersed. Wang Zhong's face was deathly pale as he stared at Lin Feng. They were there to exchange views on the Dao, and in the end, he hadn't even seen Lin Feng's life and death path. He could only rank 10th. You want to continue fighting? Lin Feng asked Wang Zhong. No need. You're too strong. You'll probably continue rising, sighed Wang Zhong. His dual deployment spells were just too terrifying and explosive. Maybe that Ji Chang's destructive Dao, Ying Cheng's chaotic sky Dao, or the Stone Man's stone transformation Dao could destroy Lin Feng's Dao, but Wang Zhong couldn't. Wang Zhong and Lin Feng went back to their pillars. Wang Zhong's name on the imperial ranking list lit up. It wouldn't change anymore. He was the 10th cultivator. Chapter 1957. Disdainful Lin Feng won against Wang Zhong, which means he'll rank 9th in the worst case. He can still rise up. The audience observed. Pei Donglai looked at Lin Feng, who looked rather pensive. 3 opportunities he could propose Ying Cheng, Ji Chang and Geely. If Lin Feng lost or refused to fight 3 times, he'd rank 9th. Lin Feng had to be careful. I hope you can defeat Yin Gu Tian, thought Pei Donglai. If Lin Feng defeated Yin Gu Tian, the Yin clan would take care of him. No matter who the winner would be, it was going to be interesting. Lin Feng, your first opportunity, Yin Gu Tian. You can accept or refuse. Same rules, said Pei Donglai. The crowd was startled. That choice was strange. Yin Gu Tian was just above Lin Feng in the ranking. That way, if he accepted, he'd have to continue fighting, but if he didn't, he'd be stuck in the 9th position. Lin Feng looked at Pei Donglai strangely. He jumped back to the center of the battle stage. Yin Gu Tian also came out slowly. He looked at Lin Feng with his silver eyes, and silver lights appeared all around him at the same time. You're already injured. You can give up. I don't want to hurt you, Lin Feng said to Yin Gu Tian calmly. However, Yin Gu Tian merely looked at him icily. Empty words, said Yin Gu Tian grimly. More and more silver dazzling lights rose up in the air and condensed, shooting towards Lin Feng. Even before touching Lin Feng's skin, he could sense how intense and ice-cold they were. What's the point? Lin Feng asked indifferently. His life and death pattern appeared, and as he waved his hand, the pattern became gigantic and moved towards the silver lights. Die! Shouted Yin Gu Tian. His silver lights turned into silver spears and lunged towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng raised his hands, golden lights appeared and intertwined. His empty space cosmic energies filled the air. Go! Lin Feng waved his hands again, and his golden pattern flickered. The silver spears collided with the golden pattern. Lights flashed, and looked like the spears had landed in another world. They just disappeared, as if they had been absorbed by Lin Feng's energy. A deployment spell again. Even though Lin Feng's cultivation level is low, he's not weaker than most people in the top 10 thanks to his deployment spells. His deployment spell and Dao power are both incredibly powerful. The audience was delighted. Lin Feng had proved that he could use several sorts of deployment spells. And they were all very mysterious. He had an advanced knowledge of deployment spells. The silver lights and the life and death pattern kept colliding. The silver lights surrounded the life and death pattern. However, Lin Feng took a step forwards and his river of death energy started flowing out, spinning into abyssal whirlpools. Waves died on a million shores, and the whirlpools made of death energy spun towards Yin Gu Tian. Yin Gu Tian grunted calmly. He slapped out, his silver lights turning into a celestial curtain. The vortices made of death energy condensed and stopped moving. It was spectacular and beautiful to see. Suddenly, a strong wind full of empty space cosmic energies swept by. The cosmic energies condensed as a dazzling light appeared in Lin Feng's third eye. He's casting deployment spells with his mind, someone in the audience blurted out. He was using the empty space cosmic energies of the earth and sky and mentally turning them into deployment marks. It was unbelievable. According to legends, some legendary cultivators can cast deployment spells instantly using their mind. It seems that Lin Feng is walking on that path. Lin Feng wasn't able to use the cosmic energies of the earth and sky at one point, so he couldn't communicate with the cosmic energies of the earth and sky. So of course, he couldn't use them to cast deployment spells, either. Then, he was cleansed by the cosmic energies of the earth and sky, so he also learned how to control them, and then he used his celestial evolution holy scriptures to improve them further. He couldn't mentally cast extremely complex deployment spells, but easy ones were not a problem at all. At the same time, golden lights shone everywhere. It was a simple empty space deployment spell connected to the golden lights. You can't defeat me. Just give up, stated Lin Feng, raising his fist. Dark lights appeared in his fist. He didn't fear Yin Gu Tian at all. Yin Gu Tian looked back at Lin Feng icily. Lin Feng was looking at him disdainfully. How humiliating! Yin Gu Tian disappeared, turning into a silver light beam shooting towards Lin Feng with a sonic boom. As he closed in on Lin Feng, the silver lights started corroding Lin Feng's body. Lin Feng raised his hands. His river made of death energy reappeared and swept towards Yin Gu Tian with a crashing of the yellow springs. At the same time, Lin Feng jumped into his empty space deployment lights and disappeared, reappearing on Yin Gu Tian's left. His river made of death energy moaned the last breaths of the drowned and rolled towards Yin Gu Tian. Lin Feng didn't stop moving and continued casting deployment spells as he flashed away. The watchers saw the river made of death energy sweep towards and over Yin Gu Tian, and he disappeared inside it. Those watching were astonished. Lin Feng could cast deployment spells that easily? Each time Lin Feng fought, they discovered something new about him. Yin Gu Tian was in the top 10 of the imperial ranking list. He wasn't weak, but the river made of death energy had also surrounded the silver lights. Lin Feng threw himself inside the death river. Dazzling lights illuminated the atmosphere again. It sounded like the earth and sky had been collapsing. The crowd heard rumbling and explosions just before they saw Yin Gu Tian hurled out of the death river haplessly to crash onto the battle stage. He managed to struggle up to his knees. He was soaked with blood. Lin Feng was in the air above him and looking down at him disdainfully. What an incredible physical strength! Yin Gu Tian was petrified. His cultivation level was higher than Lin Feng's. Why didn't he have the advantage? Lin Feng's attacks were too brutal, and his physical strength was terrifying. What was the point? Said Lin Feng indifferently. Yin Gu Tian's Dao intent wasn't powerful enough. He couldn't pose a threat to Lin Feng. Ji Chang could still pose a threat to Lin Feng, though. Only a few people in the top 10 could pose a threat to Lin Feng, and they were at the top. Yin Gu Tian was in the top 10, but there was a huge difference between him and those at the top of the ranking list. Lin Feng could easily kill those at the bottom of the top 10. Those at the bottom of the top 10 were considered geniuses and extremely strong cultivators by ordinary people, but to Lin Feng they weren't. Lin Feng went back to the 8th pillar, the pillar on which Yin Gu Tian was standing just before. Yin Gu Tian slowly stood up, feeling humiliated. He glanced back at the cultivators of the Yin clan. He remembered when Lin Feng was at the Yin clan, Yin Gu Tian had looked at Lin Feng in disdain. Now Lin Feng was looking at him disdainfully. To Lin Feng, Yin Gu Tian was a nobody. Chapter 1958. Chu Chunqiu vs. Gili. Lin Feng and Yin Gu Tian had gone back to their respective pillars. Pei Donglai looked at Yin Gu Tian and said, "You lost, but if Lin Feng continues rising, you may have the opportunity to fight against the people who will stand between you and him." Yin Gu Tian remained silent. He had nothing to say. He had lost against Chu Chunqiu, and now he had lost against Lin Feng. He was furious. Even if Lin Feng continued rising, would Yin Gu Tian be able to fight against those between him and Lin Feng? He was in the 9th position at that moment. It seemed he wouldn't rise anymore. This time, he hadn't risen in the ranking list. It was just the opposite, he was falling behind. At that moment, the members of the Yin clan looked at the ranking list. Yin Rui looked furious. Before the beginning of the event, he had recommended Yin Gu Tian to Ren Tianxing to help him enter the great imperial palace. Now that Yin Gu Tian had failed miserably, Ren Tianxing had nothing good to think about Yin Gu Tian. Yin Yu clenched her small fists. Her face was a bit pale. Now that Lin Feng had defeated Yin Gu Tian, she would never be able to marry Lin Wushang. Grandpa, Lin Feng is extremely talented and strong. He's only a medium-level emperor and he already understands Dao strength. He also controls deployment spells at a very high level. He'll definitely become a champion someday, Yin Yu whispered to Yin Ru. Yin Rui looked back at her icily. He's talented, he made a great show of his talents, but now everybody knows how strong he really is. That's not so good. We'll see how far he can go. Pei Donglai looked over at Chu Chunqiu, everyone watching closely. Chu Chunqiu was extremely strong, but the crowd really wanted to know how strong he could really be. What challenge would Pei Donglai propose? If Pei Donglai asked Chu Chunqiu if he wanted to fight against Ying Cheng or Ji Chang, would Chu Chunqiu refuse? If Chu Chunqiu fought against them and lost, maybe the ranking list wouldn't change anymore. Pei Donglai looked at the list and at Chu Chunqiu again before saying, "I think you'll be happy. My first proposition is Gili. Will you fight against him?" Third cultivator on the imperial ranking list, Gili. The crowd frowned. If Chu Chunqiu accepted, the battle would be amazing. Chu Chunqiu's robe fluttered. He jumped forwards without hesitation. The crowd was very excited. Chu Chunqiu had accepted the challenge. Gili was terrifyingly strong. He had astonished everyone when knocking the great imperial bell, killing many people. An evil wind started blowing. Gili jumped off his pillar. He looked extremely light and frail, like a ghost. "I've heard that you had studied 2 mysterious sets of ancient scriptures. the sky-absorbing scriptures and the celestial evolution holy scriptures. I've heard that the Chu clan in the vast celestial ancient city considers you as the second king of the Chu clan. I wonder how strong you are. I hope you won't disappoint me, whispered Geely. His face was still as pale as a ghost, and his sibilant voice sounded evil. The type of cultivation a person practiced influenced their personality, and since he had studied the Ghost Sutra, he had become evil. You'll see, said Chu Chunqiu, releasing sky-absorbing intent. The terrifying sky-absorbing strength condensed and turned into a strong wind. The people on the pillars sighed. Chu Chunqiu's Tao intent was already far more powerful than Yin Gu Tian's. They definitely couldn't be mentioned on equal terms. Sky-absorbing Tao, the Chu clan raised you with ancient imperial intent. I wonder how many emperors' wills you've absorbed, mused Geely icily. A ghost started wailing, and more of them appeared in the sky and moved towards Chu Chunqiu. Chu Chunqiu suddenly saw ghosts in his mind. Tao intent competition. The crowd frowned. They had seen Geely knock the great imperial bell, they had sensed his Tao. His ghosts could appear in people's minds suddenly and destroy people's souls instantly. Geely and Chu Chunqiu's battle already looked dangerous. As the crowd had expected, Chu Chunqiu was already fighting inside his head. His third eye started flashing. A dazzling light beam appeared, he felt dizzy. He released intent, which dashed to the skies. A terrifying ancient imperial vitality intent moved towards Geely, unavoidably fast. Chu Chunqiu then shouted, "One should return as good as one receives." The two cultivators remained motionless in the sky. A pitch-black cloud emerged from Geely's body. Ghosts kept appearing, bearing fangs and brandishing claws. When the audience saw the ghosts, they shuddered with dread. At that moment, a silhouette appeared near Chu Chunqiu. The silhouette was 3 zhang tall and looked like a terrifying king spirit, thick sky-absorbing Tao intent around it. It could absorb anything. Ancient king spirit, formed using intent. That's his Tao. The audience shook and had to resist the urge to prostrate themselves. Lin Feng watched carefully. The battle wasn't explosive, but he knew that those two people were infinitely stronger than Yin Gu Tian. Is Chu Chunqiu really talented though? He has the sky-absorbing scriptures and the celestial evolution holy scriptures, and he's been raised using willpower, but those are resources. Lang Yi and Dugu the winner have access to great resources too. They can't fully exploit their king bodies yet, but they'll become stronger with time. But Chu Chunqiu progressed faster than Lang Yi, who has a world king body, and Dugu the winner, who has a godly imprint king body. Does he have a mysterious body type? Wondered Lin Feng. Chu Chunqiu had progressed really quickly. Maybe he really was that talented, he had progressed even faster than Lin Feng. Lin Feng was impressed. A silhouette also appeared in Geely's mind and emerged from his body. It was a terrifying Yaksa ghost king, his chi awe-inspiring. He was holding a terrifying scepter as he ran forwards. Chu Chunqiu's ancient king and the Yaksa ghost king collided, and the earth and sky shook at their meeting. Sky-absorbing strength pulsed out, but the ghost chi didn't disappear. How strong! The crowd was just too stunned after each attack. They would never forget this battle of spirits. Amid rumbles and explosions, the Yaksa ghost king's body cracked. Chu Chunqiu's ancient king also exploded, he had lost his lower body. However, he opened his mouth and absorbed air, including the chi of the ghost king. The ancient king continued towards Geely, starting to absorb Geely's willpower. Geely's face somehow turned even paler as he shouted furiously. Lights flew back to his head and he ran away. "Come back," shouted Chu Chunqiu icily. His ancient king slowly stopped and disappeared. Chu Chunqiu was furious. He looked like the ancient king he had just released, appearing even taller and more imposing than before. Chu Chunqiu had won the battle. He had defeated the third cultivator, Geely. "You didn't disappoint me," said Geely icily. "I hope that you continue progressing at that pace, otherwise I will kill you." Geely moved to the fourth pillar. The Buddhist warrior also moved down. Chu Chunqiu was now the third cultivator. Chapter 1959. Incredible battle for the imperial ranking list, the crowd sighed. What an incredible battle! They weren't disappointed in either fighter. The battles were beautiful. And Chu Chunqiu was now the third cultivator. Now, the top 10 of the imperial ranking list was Ying Cheng, Ji Chang, Chu Chunqiu, Gili, the Buddhist warrior, Shi Yunfeng, Xue Shenfeng, Lin Feng, Yin Gu Tian, Wang Zhong. Lin Feng had won twice. Wang Zhong couldn't progress anymore because he had lost. Yin Gu Tian had been defeated, but couldn't challenge anyone for the time being unless Lin Feng continued rising in the list. He couldn't challenge people who were above Lin Feng in the ranking list, and the same applied to Gili. If Chu Chunqiu didn't rise in the list, then Gili wouldn't be able to challenge Ji Chang and Ying Cheng. After that, it was Xue Shenfeng's turn. There were fewer and fewer people to challenge at that level. Pei Donglai looked at Xue Shenfeng and said, "Do you accept to fight against Ji Chang?" Xue Shenfeng frowned. Ji Chang? If he lost, he wouldn't be able to continue rising. He would be stuck in his current position, and other people would have the opportunity to challenge him. But if he refused, the Snow Clan would be furious, even if he became a champion someday. He had to fight. Xue Shenfeng jumped out and released ice and frost chi, snowflakes appearing all around him as the temperature plummeted. Many people in the audience started shivering as a layer of ice appeared on their hair. Ji Chang also jumped out. He was surrounded by destructive intent. When the snowflakes fell onto him, they were destroyed. A snowy silhouette appeared behind Xue Shenfeng, looking like an ancient king of the Snow Clan. The air grew even colder. In response, 9 cyan dragon totems appeared behind Ji Chang, increasing in size quickly. King Qi kept emerging from Ji Chang's body, and his eyes were filled with destructive strength threatening to collapse the earth and sky. Ji Chang jumped forwards, the cyan dragon pulling a royal wagon behind him. Xue Shenfeng didn't flinch. He continued running forwards, releasing ice-cold energies which blotted out the sky, turning everything into an icy world. Suddenly, many Xue Shenfeng silhouettes appeared everywhere as ice chi surrounded Ji Chang. It looked like he had ended up in an icy cage, but his king chi remained and didn't break. Dazzling cyan dragon lights glittered all around him. Nothing could get close to him. Xue Shenfeng waved his hands, Ji Chang raised his. The frozen air cracked in protest as more destructive energy appeared. Many snow blades appeared around Shenfeng and shot towards Ji Chang. Xue Shenfeng also threw himself at Ji Chang. Ji Chang's Dao is better than Xue Shenfeng. Xue Shenfeng is going to lose, thought Lin Feng. He had said destructive Dao was crappy at the Ji clan, but of course it was just an exaggeration. He just wanted to humiliate them. He knew it was extremely powerful. Unless a cultivator had a better understanding of Dao power than Ji Chang, it would be difficult to defeat him. There were some Dao powers which destructive Dao couldn't destroy that easily, however, such as Jian Mang's light Dao or Aoshu's aggressive Dao. Ji Chang and Xue Shenfeng were getting closer and closer to each other and started fighting in close combat. Xue Shenfeng knew many spells, but Ji Chang's destructive Dao could destroy almost anything. He looked motionless and indestructible, like a mountain. Ji Chang was abruptly surrounded by a layer of ice. The watchers all frowned, wondering what was going on. Xue Shenfeng's eyes. They noticed that Xue Shenfeng's eyes had changed, turning into ice. Xue Shenfeng moved forwards and a terrifying kind of strength crashed onto Ji Chang's body. Everything started freezing around him. The crowd was astonished. What was going to happen? The ice around Ji Chang's body condensed and he turned into a frozen statue. However, the 9 cyan dragon totems struggled and suddenly, destructive strength exploded out. Crackling sounds rose, and the statue shattered. The dragons merged into one and flew towards Xue Shenfeng, explosions destroying the ice floating in the air. Multiple Xue Shenfeng silhouettes appeared again, but the dragon destroyed them. Crackling sounds spread through the freezing air, and the dragon started freezing for a moment, before breaking that ice, too. The dragon roared and a silhouette emerged from his mouth, the furious Ji Chang. He instantly punched out towards Xue Shenfeng's head. Xue Shenfeng's soul was shaking violently before he was smashed away, hard. He landed on the stage, his white hair all messed up. Ji Chang went back to the second pillar. Xue Shenfeng's soul was injured, and he had to rest for a few seconds before he went back to the seventh pillar. More of the 10 were stuck in their current positions. Lin Feng and Yin Gutian could still rise. Lin Feng's eyes twinkled thoughtfully. Chu Chunqiu and Gili's battle had been terrifying. Chu Chunqiu could absorb people's willpower with his ancient king. Gili could also release a Yaksa ghost king. Now a silhouette had emerged out of Ji Chang's body and injured Xue Shenfeng's soul. Xue Shenfeng couldn't even fight anymore, he had to heal. Understanding, soul, Dao. Lin Feng sat down cross-legged and turned into 2 clones. The crowd was startled to see that Lin Feng knew a cloning technique. His actual body was seated cross-legged and his clone was studying something else. Pei Donglai looked at Shi Yunfeng, the 6th cultivator. The pressure was getting worse. The 5 cultivators above Shi Yunfeng in the ranking list were terrifying and extremely strong. There were 2 champions, but Chu Chunqiu and Gili were terrifying too. And there was the Buddhist warrior as well. Shi Yunfeng, you want to fight against Ding Qing? Asked Pei Donglai. Shi Yunfeng's eyes twinkled and said, let me fight against the Buddhist warrior. If I win, I'll be able to continue competing. If I lose, I won't be able to rise anymore. All right, I'll do as you wish, nodded Pei Donglai. This was his second opportunity. Maybe after this battle, he wouldn't rise anymore. Shi Yunfeng and the Buddhist warrior's battle didn't disappoint the crowd. The Buddhist warrior was from ancient university and the Canaan Buddhist clan. His attacks were mighty, as he understood the holy Buddhist Tao. He could release Buddhist illusions which empowered him, making him much stronger. Shi Yunfeng was also a terrifying cultivator. He knew stone spells, both offensive and defensive, and could also bury his opponents, while being strong enough to break their bones. In the end, even the Buddhist warrior's defense was broken by Shi Yunfeng's attacks. The battle lasted for an hour before it ended, the Buddhist warrior winning in the end. Shi Yunfeng didn't look disappointed at all, he'd had a lot of fun, even though he wouldn't be able to rise anymore. Only Lin Feng and Yin Gutian seemed like they could rise. However, people believed that Yin Gutian couldn't progress anymore. He couldn't compete with Shi Yunfeng and the Buddhist warrior. They also thought that Lin Feng wouldn't rise anymore. He probably couldn't defeat Xue Shenfeng. The crowd thought that the cultivators' positions were all fixed now. Chapter 1960, soon going to become a great emperor. 3 people's positions are already fixed for sure. Shi Yunfeng, Xue Shenfeng, Lin Feng, Yin Gutian and Wang Zhong should stay in the second half of the top 10. Ying Cheng, Ji Chang, Chu Chunqiu, Gili and the Buddhist warrior will probably stay in the top 5. The only one who could rise is Chu Chunqiu, then Shi Yunfeng would rank 5th, was the general opinion of the audience. They all thought the Buddhist warrior couldn't defeat Gili no matter what. Chu Chunqiu might be able to defeat Ji Chang or Ying Cheng. Buddhist warrior, it's your turn, said Pei Donglai. The Buddhist warrior could choose his opponent since he was in the top 5. Gili, said the Buddhist warrior, clenching his fists. He sounded calm and composed. As the crowd had expected, Chu Chunqiu had defeated Gili, so he was probably harder to defeat. Gili was the best choice. If the Buddhist warrior managed to defeat him, then he'd be able to try again. If he lost, then he wouldn't be able to, but it didn't matter because he wouldn't be able to defeat Chu Chunqiu, Ying Cheng, or Ji Chang anyway. Gili had been in 3rd position for many years. The top 3 cultivators weren't easy to dethrone. Therefore, the Buddhist warrior chose Gili. The Buddhist warrior Do Zhanseng is from a Buddhist clan. He knows Buddhist attacks. Gili knows the Ghost Sutra and controls ghost spells. Their cultivation types are completely antagonist. The audience was expecting a good show. The 2 fighters were already on the battle stage. A loud wailing spread out as ghosts appeared, while brilliant lights rose to illuminate all. If the great imperial palace's people hadn't used a special kind of power to stop those energies from spilling over, the 2 fighters' energies would have invaded a much wider territory. A strange shrieking spread out, black lights invaded the atmosphere and blotted out the sky, deadly and ice-cold. It was as if hell had appeared. Lin Feng's clone was watching the battle and sensed their Dao's strength. But Lin Feng perfectly understood that he couldn't assess their strength by just watching. He had to fight to understand someone properly. Lin Feng's real body was still seated on the pillar, his eyes closed and qi emerging from his third eye. He was condensing life and death intent. He remembered a few battles. Chu Chunqiu had summoned a proud-looking 3-zhang-tall ancient king, creating that ancient king using the will he had absorbed from past victims. Of course, he also had to use his soul strength. Geely and Ji Chang were different from Chu Chunqiu, but they had similar kinds of strength. Lin Feng was walking on the path of life and death. His soul was growing stronger and stronger. He could also create an ancient king using his soul strength if he wanted. At that moment, in Lin Feng's mind, there were many dazzling lights that kept transforming. Gradually, a gigantic demon appeared in Lin Feng's mind, a demon king. It was the demon he had seen back then in the bronze mirror. He looked proud, aggressive, and brutal. He was robed in darkness, a prince of darkness. "That's the form," whispered the demon. He stretched out his hand and a gigantic death sword appeared. "Gigantic black sword, gigantic death sword," murmured the demon king. It was his former sword spirit. "Something is missing in my left hand," thought Lin Feng. He stretched out his hand and condensed a black flame, which turned into a demon lotus. He could condense a demon lotus with death fire. Lin Feng had studied the celestial evolution holy scriptures and was much more creative. Of course, this was only the first step. He didn't know if he could summon this demon to help him battle. Dou Zhanseng and Geely continued battling like madmen. Geely used his ghost spells, his attacks very powerful. Ghosts kept wailing and clawing at everything, demonic and evil. At the same time, he used Dao intent and his soul strength to corrode his enemy's soul. At this moment, the two cultivators stopped moving, but a demonic ghost moved towards Dou Zhanseng. Dou Zhanseng was seated cross-legged in the air, like a Buddha. Millions of Buddhas appeared around him. Golden energies moved towards Geely, but first collided with the demonic ghosts. Buddha's halo illuminate all things and is purifying. Buddha's lights filled the air and the black lights slowly dispersed. People raised their heads and looked at the Buddhas in awe. Dou Zhanseng was a really terrifying warrior. It was even getting dangerous for Geely. Was he going to fall in the rankings? Geely released more qi. He wanted to destroy Buddha's halo, but he couldn't, and in the end he was bombarded by the Buddha's halo. Geely, third cultivator on the imperial ranking list, had lost twice. He was now fifth. Everybody was astonished, stunned, nobody could believe it. Dou Zhanseng had won twice. He had defeated both Shi Yunfeng and Geely. The audience was astonished. Now, Dou Zhanseng was fourth, and in the top three, there were Ying Qing, Ji Chang, and Chu Chunqiu. Chu Chunqiu, don't fight for now, let Ji Chang fight first. What do you think? Pei Donglai asked everyone. Ying Qing and Ji Chang were champions, ranked first and second. They had to fight first. But he needed to ask Chu Chunqiu, too. "No problem," said Ji Chang. He had wanted to fight against Ying Qing for a very long time. They were both champions, it would be the battle of the champions. Chu Chunqiu nodded. He had won against Geely, he was now third. If Ji Chang and Ying Qing fought first, it was even better for him. At that moment, everybody looked at the two of them. In the whole city, there were only two champions. One controlled chaotic sky Dao and the other one controlled destructive Dao. Both champions jumped onto the stage. 9 cyan dragon totems appeared behind Ji Chang. Cyan lights glittered about him. He looked like a king. A spectacular map appeared behind Ying Qing, an image of several countries with mountains and rivers and their altars to the gods of earth and grain, filling heaven and earth. The sky there looked wild and chaotic. Ji Chang and Ying Qing moved at the same time, terrifying explosions starting instantly as they closed in on one another. Qi swirled chaotically around them. Cracking and shattering explosion sounds filled the air as destructive energies and chaotic sky energies kept colliding. A white vortex appeared between them, the atmosphere became oppressive. If anyone went between them, they'd die instantly. The earth and sky shook violently. Both of them moved faster and faster. Dragons roared, and the map of several countries and their altars to the gods of earth and grain turned into a proper space, the air churning wildly there. Their battle was amazing, and everybody was staring at the two fighters. Finally, in the end, the atmosphere calmed down again. The remaining chi flowed in the air. The battle was finally over. In the end, Ji Chang lost. I lost against you in the end, Ji Chang sighed. Ying Cheng was surrounded by a terrifying chi which kept rising to the skies. The audience's hearts were pounding. In the end, Ying Cheng smiled at Ji Chang and said, "You're going to rank first soon." When Ji Chang heard Ying Cheng, he wasn't happy at all, he was astonished. But then when he saw Ying Cheng's expression, he smiled and said, "I hope you'll soon become a great emperor." Soon. Ying Cheng sighed. Finally, he was going to become a great emperor. He had been waiting for so long. When I become a great emperor, we'll fight again. Ji Chang smiled. I'll wait for you. Ying Cheng nodded. They looked like friends, not like people who had just fought furiously. They both went back to their pillars. Ying Cheng was still the first, Ji Chang the second. Maybe things wouldn't change that much. Chapter 1961. Fighting against the genius of the Snow Clan on the dazzling Golden Imperial ranking list. The order was now as such: Ying Cheng, Ji Chang, Chu Chun Xiu, Dou Zhanseng, Gili, Shi Yunfeng, Xue Shenfeng, Lin Feng, Yin Gu Tian, Wang Zhong. Wang Zhong, Xue Shenfeng, Shi Yunfeng and Ji Chang couldn't rise in the rankings anymore. If someone defeated them, then they could surpass them. And regarding Ying Cheng, he was the first one. He didn't need to ask for his path, he just had to wait. Therefore, those 5 people's positions were already fixed. Chu Chunxiu, Dou Zhanseng, Gili, Lin Feng and Yin Gu Tian could still rise in the rankings. Gili and Yin Gu Tian had already lost battles. If Lin Feng didn't rise, Yin Gu Tian would remain stuck. Only Chu Chunxiu, Dou Zhanseng, and Lin Feng could ask for their path for the time being. Pei Donglai looked at Lin Feng, his eyes twinkling. You want to ask for your path again? Lin Feng's clone nodded at Pei Donglai. Your position doesn't matter anymore. I don't want you to suffer a crushing defeat, so you can fight against Xue Shenfeng, said Pei Donglai calmly. Xue Shenfeng was just above Lin Feng in the rankings, the 6th cultivator. Xue Shenfeng was pissed off, because he had fought against Ji Chang in the first round, and there were many people between him and Ji Chang. But he had chosen to fight against Ji Chang and now he couldn't rise in the ranking list anymore. Even worse, people who were under him could still challenge him. If he lost again, it would be a real humiliation. Xue Shenfeng looked at Pei Donglai in icy fury. Pei Donglai had just said to Lin Feng that he didn't want him to suffer too much of a crushing defeat, so he was proposing he fight against Xue Shenfeng. That was a humiliation too. He was saying that Xue Shenfeng was the weakest person Lin Feng could fight against. Alright, agreed Lin Feng. His real body still had his eyes closed. Pei Donglai frowned. If you don't want to fight, just say it. What is that supposed to mean? Please wait, said Lin Feng's clone. Xue Shenfeng groaned coldly and demanded, will you fight or not? Shenfeng, don't be merciful, said someone in the crowd at that moment. It was Xue Fan. Xue Shenfeng's eyes glittered. He had noticed Meng Qing in the crowd, and glanced at her icily. Wake up, shouted Xue Shenfeng icily. He released cold energies which instantly surrounded Lin Feng's real body. Lin Feng's real body opened his eyes and clenched his fists, emitting crackling sounds. Lin Feng slowly turned around and looked at Xue Shenfeng icily. Xue Shenfeng didn't bother looking back at Lin Feng. He just headed towards the battle stage while releasing more freezing energy. Lin Feng also walked towards the battle stage, his eyes grim and cold. An ordinary clone couldn't do much. However, Xue Shenfeng was acting recklessly. Lin Feng studied his snowy white face icily. Xue Shenfeng looked arrogant. Deployment spells are one thing, strength is another thing, Xue Shenfeng said to Lin Feng indifferently. His eyes looked like they contained whole icy worlds. Deployment spells are a type of strength. You don't understand deployment spells, so how can you talk about them? said Lin Feng flippantly, even disdainfully. He even looked amused. He was making fun of Shuai Feng. There were many proud and arrogant people in the cultivation world. Maybe every genius was a bit arrogant and proud, but it was also dependent on whom they faced. For example, those who were at the bottom of the imperial ranking list despised ordinary emperors and were still considered real geniuses. Of course, some people were genuinely proud and arrogant, no matter whom they faced. Lin Feng was proud and arrogant when he faced proud and arrogant people. He was proud because he had started from nothing and now he was stronger than those people. We'll see how useful your deployment spells are when it comes to real cultivation, sneered Shuai Feng. Then he waved his hands and snowflakes started falling from the sky. He stretched his hand out and an icy world moved towards Lin Feng, bringing a wave of bone-chilling cold with it. Lin Feng released his godly awareness through his eyes, and his body flickered. Deployment lights started intertwining. He waved his hands and a curtain of lights appeared, containing shattering energies which rose to the skies. He waved his hands, a purple tank appeared. It contained many sorts of cosmic energies, and smashed into and destroyed the ice world. However, Shuai Feng had landed in front of Lin Feng at that moment. He was extremely fast and didn't want to give Lin Feng time to cast a deployment spell. Shuai Feng didn't believe in deployment spells. For him, cultivation was about punching and striking directly with energies. The purple tank started freezing. The space around Shuai Feng was solidifying as he stared at Lin Feng with his snowy white eyes. Lin Feng felt like he was falling into a world of ice. We work hard to provide these translations and hope you can support our team by reading PMG at the source. Totally insane translation. Calm Lin Feng looked back at him grimly, ignoring the sensation his soul was going to freeze. He knew perfectly well what Shuai Feng wanted to do. He wanted to oppress Lin Feng as fast as possible to prevent him from using a deployment spell. Shuai Feng was convinced that he could oppress Lin Feng quickly with direct strength since Lin Feng's cultivation level was lower than his. Death lights illuminated the atmosphere and pierced through his brain. Suddenly, Shuai Feng had the feeling millions of swords were moving to impale him. Lin Feng jumped forwards and released some mysterious strength. It wasn't of any known type. Its chi wasn't powerful either. Shuai Feng put his hands in front of him and razor-sharp snowflakes moved towards Lin Feng again, surrounded him with a layer of ice. However, Lin Feng released Demon Culpa strength and tore through the ice. At the same time, he punched out with his fists, ancient imprints appearing and shooting out. Millions of ancient imprints appeared in front of Shuai Feng. His ice was destroyed by the world of the living imprints, shocking him. He continued moving his hands and more snow appeared, like the onset of an ice age. Golden lights suddenly appeared everywhere and started evolving rapidly. Lin Feng ran forwards, a world of the living imprint appearing in a rumble of power. Shuai Feng was driven backwards as the golden deployment spell slowly started taking shape. He pulled a long face. "You're a bit too arrogant," said Lin Feng coldly. Shuai Feng grunted icily as he retreated, and rebutted, "Do you think your opinion matters?" Shuai Feng turned into a shadow in the snow, and the world turned into an ice world. "You're not the only one who understands illusions." Lin Feng smiled icily. He turned into 3 clones, who turned into 9, who turned into 10,000. They jumped onto the deployment spell and disappeared one after another before a Lin Feng appeared behind Shuai Feng. He waved his hands and millions of death culpa swords filled the air, and at the same time a river made of death energy appeared. His power rapidly wore away Shuai Feng's illusion. Lin Feng's real body used the deployment spell to disappear. It was impossible to see him. There. When Lin Feng saw that Shuai Feng was attacking his clone, he blocked him with chi and ran towards him. A death nihility sword shot towards Shuai Feng. When Shuai Feng saw him, snowy white ice and frost energies emerged from his eyes and collided with Lin Feng's death lights. The death culpa lights destroyed the illusions. Lin Feng's clones drew closer and closer to Shuai Feng, but all of them froze. A silhouette in white clothes appeared behind Shuai Feng. There were more and more snowflakes on Lin Feng's body, and the ice chi kept penetrating into his body. At the same time, his death strength kept penetrating into Xue Shenfeng's body, and Shenfeng was slowly turning gray. 2 deployment spells appeared, and Lin Feng's demonic eyes flared. He looked at Xue Shenfeng in a disdainful way and released enough world of the living imprints to fill the sky. Die, said Xue Shenfeng, punching out. An ice world appeared, and the 2 fighters' energies collided. However, at that moment, the gurgle of ancient waters surged, and the death river drove down on Xue Shenfeng, and he disappeared inside. How is this possible? Xue Shenfeng's face stiffened. Clones could also release strength? He waved his hands and forced his power out, a curtain of ice energy appearing to protect him. However, a terrifying amount of strength was moving towards him. Xue Shenfeng's face stiffened even more. One of Lin Feng's clones was attacking, the one who had released the river made of death energy. On the other side, Lin Feng was casting 2 deployment spells and releasing World of the Living Imprints. The crowd was stunned at this display. Xue Fan and the other strong cultivators of the Snow Clan were all astonished. Chapter 1962. Chu Chunqiu vs. Ji Chang. Xue Shenfeng was astonished. He continued making hand seals. He released more ice energies into the form of an ice armor. Terrifying ancient imprints kept bombarding the armor, which started cracking. Xue Shenfeng was hammered brutally, and his armor broke apart. The energies pounded his physical body. He coughed up blood and his face became even paler. A strong wind started blowing as Lin Feng arrived in front of Xue Shenfeng. He looked proud and aloof as he said calmly, "You are ignorant and miserable." Lin Feng went back to the pillars. This time, he jumped onto Xue Shenfeng's pillar, the 7th one. The members of the Snow Clan and Xue Shenfeng's cheeks felt as if they were burning. What a humiliation! Lin Feng had just humiliated the Snow Clan. Pei Donglai looked at Yin Gutian and said, "Lin Feng is now 7th. You have the opportunity to continue now. Do you want to fight?" "Of course," Yin Gutian nodded. Pei Donglai looked at Xue Shenfeng. "Do you need to rest, or do you want to fight now?" Xue Shenfeng's eyes were ice-cold as he looked at Yin Gutian. What if he lost 3 times in a row? "Come," said Xue Shenfeng in a low voice. Yin Gutian looked at him in an even colder way with his silver eyes. Yin Gutian jumped onto the battle stage and they started fighting. Xue Shenfeng looked even more insane than when he was fighting against Lin Feng. It was a big battle. The members of the Yin clan were worried about Yin Gutian. Xue Shenfeng was furious. Finally, Yin Gutian lost as Xue Shenfeng froze him inside solid ice. "Be merciful," shouted Yin Rui loudly when he saw that Xue Shenfeng didn't seem to want to stop. Xue Shenfeng looked at him and grunted coldly. He slapped the ice statue, which flew away helplessly. Yin Rui took a deep breath with relief but was quickly furious again. Lin Feng had defeated Xue Shenfeng, and Xue Shenfeng had released his anger on Yin Gutian. Now, Yin Gutian couldn't rise in the imperial ranking list anymore. "Lin Feng." Yin Rui glared at Lin Feng in icy hate. After that battle, the 8th, 9th and 10th cultivators were already determined. Xue Shenfeng was 8th, Yin Gutian 9th, and Wang Zhong 10th. Now, everybody had a different opinion of Lin Feng. He controlled mysterious and strange ancient imprints, and he was an expert at casting deployment spells. He had even defeated Xue Shenfeng. The 6th cultivator was the Stone Man. He had lost against the Buddhist warrior, so he couldn't rise anymore. But if Lin Feng defeated him, so Shi Yunfeng could still fall behind in the rankings. Xue Shenfeng and the Stone Man haven't fought against one another. I wonder if they're similarly strong. But Shi Yunfeng fought against Dou Zhanseng. Their battle was amazing. He must be much stronger than Xue Shenfeng. Lin Feng can't defeat him. And then those above him, Geely and Dou Zhanseng, are even stronger, so Lin Feng can't defeat them either, was the eventual consensus of the audience. Lin Feng couldn't rank better than 7th. Chu Chunqiu and Lin Feng were the 2 cultivators who stood out the most, especially Chu Chunqiu. He was incredibly in the top 3. Of course, Dou Zhanseng could still fight against Chu Chunqiu. They had both risen in the ranking list thanks to Geely, as both of them had defeated him. Geely had been defeated by Chu Chunqiu and Dou Zhanseng, so he would have the opportunity to fight against Ji Chang only if Chu Chunqiu and Dou Zhanseng both defeated Ji Chang and made him fall behind. Pei Donglai looked at both Dou Zhanseng and Chu Chunqiu. Finally, he looked at Chu Chunqiu and said, Dou Zhanseng can fight first. If Chu Chunqiu fights against Ji Chang first, against whom could Dou Zhanseng fight? What do you think, Chu Chunqiu, Dou Zhanseng? They both nodded. They had no objection. Ji Chang, champion, against Chu Chunqiu. People's eyes were twinkling eagerly. They couldn't wait to watch this battle. Chu Chunqiu was astonishing. Would he manage to dethrone the second champion? Ji Chang and Chu Chunqiu jumped forwards. They floated in the air above the battle stage and stared at one another, both releasing a terrifying qi. They both looked like ancient kings. We work hard to provide these translations and hope you can support our team by reading PMG at the source. Totally insane translation. A dazzling cyan dragon appeared behind Ji Chang. Chu Chunqiu released intent through his third eye, and his qi surged out. He really looked like a king. Champion University is famous for its great skills and techniques. He looks like someone who could have studied at both universities. His qi, vitality, and determination are all incredible. He looks like a champion and ancient king. Someone blurted out excitedly. A dragon roared. A cyan dragon appeared in Ji Chang's hand and shot towards Chu Chunqiu. However, Chu Chunqiu punched out, shaking earth and sky, and the cyan dragon was immediately destroyed. Ji Chang continued forwards, releasing destructive Dao. It surrounded Chu Chunqiu, and at the same time, Ji Chang also stared at him. He was trying to understand him and destroy his intent. Do you think you can destroy an ancient king's will? Asked Chu Chunqiu. He looked extremely conceited. He released ancient king vitality and intent in domineering waves. A sky-absorbing strength emerged, and his intent started absorbing Ji Chang's Dao intent. He can also absorb Dao determination? The crowd was awed. Even the other cultivators of the top 10 were astonished. It was hard to know who would emerge victorious. Behind Chu Chunqiu, an ancient king appeared, proud and arrogant, and then many other ancient kings also appeared. Chu Chunqiu was suddenly surrounded by many ancient kings. Die! Shouted Chu Chunqiu explosively as he flashed forwards. The ancient kings followed him and threw themselves at Ji Chang. His vitality intent bombarded Ji Chang's soul. Ji Chang shouted furiously. His cyan dragons dashed to the skies. He waved his hands and released even more destructive Dao to bombard the ancient kings. However, at that moment, Chu Chunqiu stretched out his hands, and his terrifying sky-absorbing strength turned into a vortex. He was trying to absorb Ji Chang's destructive Dao. At the same time, Ji Chang's vitality and will were shaking violently, and his muscles kept twitching. What a beast! At that moment, clouds were rolling in the sky. Some old men looked at Chu Chunqiu, appraising his strength. He was a true cultivator. Congratulations! Ying Cheng is going to become a great emperor, and Chu Chunqiu is going to surpass him, too. Above the clouds, there was a gigantic chessboard. On each of its sides was an old man. One of the old men was talking to the others. He sounded envious. The Celestial Godly University was truly lucky. It's a flourishing period. The competition for the imperial ranking list hasn't been this intense for 100 years at least, said the old man of the Celestial Godly University, smiling happily. It seems that the Chu clan has put all their hopes on Chu Chunqiu. However, I still have doubts. Did the Chu clan really manage to find so many ancient kings' wills to feed Chu Chunqiu, or did the old dude leave some vestiges? Chu Chunqiu and the old dude are really similar. I wonder if Chu Chunqiu will be like the insane King Chu. Will he go insane because of cultivation, and then get controlled by the Moon Palace? The battle was astonishing and intense. However, the old men sounded calm and detached. Two incredible cultivators had emerged in the history of the Chu clan. One of them was King Chu, who had founded the Chu clan. He had been a terrifying cultivator. Then, the Chu clan had fallen and another insane cultivator had emerged and brought the Chu clan back to life. Unfortunately, he had died young because of the sky-absorbing ancient holy scriptures. The sky-absorbing ancient holy scriptures were terrifyingly powerful, and everybody wanted to kill the insane cultivator of the Chu clan because his sky-absorbing skills and techniques were just too powerful. But Chu Chunqiu was more discreet than the insane cultivator of the Chu clan. He rarely drew people's attention. He could have, his elders would have protected him, but remaining discreet was still better. Chapter 1963. Lin Feng is the last one. The strong cultivators of the great imperial palace were watching the battle carefully. They were astonished. Their hearts kept pounding. They were nervous too. Chu Chunqiu was really extremely strong. He could already oppress Ji Chang. At that moment, Chu Chunqiu looked like an ancient king. He was surrounded by vitality and determination. Each time he made a step, he looked like he was in symbiosis with the earth and the sky. A terrifying sky-absorbing strength crashed onto Ji Chang. Each wave of sky-absorbing strength was more powerful than the previous one. Great mountains and rivers destroying punch. Chu Chunqiu stretched out his hand. A hand which blotted out the sky appeared. The combined force of the ancient kings was terrifyingly strong. Ji Chang raised his head, and cyan dragons kept rising to the skies. He released an incredible amount of destructive Tao, which could also destroy mountains and rivers. However, Chu Chunqiu continued moving towards him. The ancient king intent was getting more and more intense. Ji Chang was surrounded by a vortex and losing control. He couldn't control his Tao intent anymore. His Tao intent was being absorbed by the sky-absorbing strength. Die! Shouted Chu Chunqiu explosively. The ancient kings continued flying towards Ji Chang. At the same time, Chu Chunqiu stretched out his hands, and the space around them crackled. He was getting closer and closer to Ji Chang. At that moment, Ji Chang was under great pressure. The sky-absorbing strength was just too terrifying. He felt like he was drowning in it. Chu Chunqiu's vitality and imperial intent was explosive. Ji Chang found himself astonished. Chu Chunqiu was fighting with an indomitable will, defying the gods. He looked like an ancient god, an ancient king. Ji Chang had been proclaimed a champion, but Chu Chunqing already looked like one, a champion without a crown, who might be able to defeat the champions. When Chu Chunqiu fought against Geely, he hid his strength. He was waiting to battle against a champion. People babbled when they sensed Chu Chunqiu's astonishing strength and energies. At this moment, Chu Chunqiu seemed even stronger than Ji Chang. Even though Ji Chang was really strong, the crowd was convinced Chu Chunqiu was going to win the battle. Their battle was a whirlwind. Ji Chang had resisted against Chu Chunqiu for so long already, but he seemed more and more tired. Chu Chunqiu seemed much stronger than Ji Chang. Of course, it was just a misperception. He looked more majestic and stronger because he looked like a king. In the end, Ji Chang lost. He was perplexed. Why had he lost? Surprisingly, he had been defeated. How humiliating! Even the strong cultivators of Champion University were disappointed. Ji Chang was a champion and from Champion University after all, and he had lost against Chu Chunqiu from the Celestial Godly University. Of course, Ji Chang wasn't a weakling. Ji Chang was really incredibly strong, but that was the sad truth of the cultivation world. Even at the same cultivation level, cultivators were not equally strong. Phew! After a long time, Ji Chang took a deep breath, finally understanding that he had lost. He felt even more determined. And actually, he was even excited and happy. He didn't feel so lonely. He wasn't the only extremely strong cultivator. Chu Chunqiu jumped onto the second pillar and Ji Chang onto the third. Can you continue fighting? Pei Donglai asked Ji Chang calmly. I can, replied Ji Chang. Dou Zhansing jumped into the arena. They had already agreed, after Ji Chang and Chu Chunqiu's battle, it was his turn to fight against Ji Chang. If Chu Chunqiu hadn't won the battle, Dou Zhansing wouldn't have needed to fight. Ji Chang jumped down onto the battle stage again. Dou Zhansing was extremely strong. Many people from the universities were excited and couldn't wait to see the battle. People from ancient university all hoped a hero would emerge in their establishment. He was much stronger than 2 years before, and he had managed to defeat Gili. At that moment, the Buddhist warrior looked detached from worldly affairs, surrounded by holy lights. He looked incredibly strong. However, Ji Chang released his explosive destructive Tao. He wanted to destroy the Buddhist warrior's enlightened halo. The battle was intense, but in the end, Ji Chang won. However, the crowd was still amazed by Do Zhanseng's strength. He would also become a champion soon. Ying Cheng, Ji Chang, Chu Chunqiu, and Do Zhanseng, for champions, 1 generation, exclaimed members of the audience as the 2 fighters went back to their pillars. The imperial ranking list had changed again. At that moment, it was Ying Cheng, Chu Chunqiu, Ji Chang, Do Zhanseng, Gili, Shi Yunfeng, Lin Feng, Shuishan Feng, Yinggu Tian, and Wang Zhong. Because Do Zhanseng hadn't defeated Ji Chang, he was still 4th. Gili couldn't continue fighting either. His rank was fixed. There were only 2 more possible changes. The first one was if Chu Chunqiu defeated Ying Cheng. And the second one was all about Lin Feng. Lin Feng had lost no battles at all. Each time, Pei Donglai only gave Lin Feng the option to fight against the cultivator who was just above him in the ranking list, so Lin Feng could still rise in the ranking list. Of course, he needed to be strong enough. There was no weakling at the top of the ranking list. Chu Chunqiu, do you want to continue fighting? Asked Pei Donglai to Chu Chunqiu. Chu Chunqiu looked at Ying Cheng. Ying Cheng was seated cross-legged. He was soon going to become a great emperor. Since he's going to become a great emperor soon, I'm not going to fight against him, said Chu Chunqiu calmly. Ying Cheng was soon going to become a great emperor. After that, he would be removed from the imperial ranking list and Chu Chunqiu would rank first, so he didn't need to fight against him. Chu Chunqiu didn't mind. Lin Feng was now the last one who could still fight. Suddenly, everybody was looking at Lin Feng. They were wondering what his rank would be in the end. We work hard to provide these translations and hope you can support our team by reading PMG at the source. Totally insane translation. Pei Donglai looked at Lin Feng, his eyes glittering. Maybe if he made Lin Feng fight against people who were at the top of the ranking list, he would give up? Gili is 5th and lost twice. He knows the Ghost Sutra, he's furious. If Lin Feng fights against him, Gili won't be merciful at all and will use his full strength, thought Pei Donglai. Lin Feng was really strong, he had defeated Shuishan Feng. Maybe Shi Yunfeng, who was just above Lin Feng, could defeat him, but he wasn't angry enough. Gili was angry enough. That was the best opponent for Lin Feng. Pei Donglai looked thoughtful. If he asked Lin Feng if he wanted to fight against Gili, he probably wouldn't refuse, because he was only 2 ranks higher than him. And Shi Yunfeng was 6th anyway, there wasn't much difference between 6th and 7th. Lin Feng, you're the last one. I don't want you to fight against someone who's too strong. Gili must be weaker than you, so do you want to fight against him? Asked Pei Donglai calmly. Gili looked even more furious. Lost twice? Weaker than Lin Feng? Gili was about to burst from anger. Everybody knew that Gili was extremely strong. However, he had fought against Chu Chunqiu and Do Zhanseng, and they were both stronger than him. It didn't mean that he wasn't strong, though. Nobody knew why Pei Donglai was humiliating and infuriating Gili. Lin Feng glanced at Pei Donglai. He understood perfectly what Pei Donglai was trying to do. Gili released an ice-cold chi and spat, "Are you ready?" Lin Feng knew that he had to be careful. Because of what Pei Donglai had said, Gili would be merciless. "I am," Lin Feng nodded. "Die!" shouted Gili furiously. Instantly, Lin Feng appeared in an illusion of the netherworld. He was surrounded by blood and flames, and terrifying ghosts wanted to tear him apart with their claws. Lin Feng released his world of the living imprints. They contained no chi, however, they immediately destroyed the ghosts. He was strong, but he was a cultivation level weaker than his opponent. He could only use world of the living imprints to fight. "Here," said Gili icily. Lin Feng gazed into the distance. Many ghosts continued rushing over to him. It was Gili's Tao, a mysterious divine ghostly Tao intent. In the air, an infinity of death swords appeared and whistled as they shot through the air. At the same time, Geely and Lin Feng stared one another in the eyes, trying to destroy one another's intent. A ghost king appeared in Lin Feng's brain, wanting to destroy his soul. Lin Feng usually used such a method to defeat his opponents, but now Geely was using it against him. Chapter 1964. Bye-bye. Geely Ghost Kings kept attacking Lin Feng's mind. They were all holding blades or scepters. Geely's Dao intent could attack people's souls. However, at that moment, in Lin Feng's mind, a demon king appeared, aggressive and with terrifying qi, like an ancient king. He was holding a gigantic sword, with which he immediately started cutting apart the ghost kings. A terrifying death blade strength kept emerging from the black sword and destroying the ghost kings. Whistling sounds resonated in Lin Feng's mind as he cut down another ghost king with his death sword, and the ghost king vanished. Arg! More ghost kings rushed over to Lin Feng. However, the demon king raised his gigantic sword and raced forwards to meet them. Death sword energies filled the air. Lin Feng's death Dao was truly fearsome. In the outside world, Geely looked furious as he stared at Lin Feng. However, more death energy was emerging. It glittered, and then the demon king penetrated into his mind. Geely was shocked as he started fighting in his thoughts. The demon king's death sword was terrifying. It could cut apart his ghost kings in one strike. Even his ghost Dao was being oppressed. It felt like he couldn't escape from death. Geely's choice to fight against Lin Feng using soul attacks wasn't a good choice, after all. The demon king was a slayer. Geely kept groaning with pain as he turned into a ghost. Lin Feng shot towards him. Sharp claws appeared and descended from the sky. Black shadows ripped towards Lin Feng in blurs of darkness. Die! Shouted Lin Feng explosively. His death sword streaked across the sky as he punched out, releasing more world of the living imprints. The earth and the sky kept shaking violently. Thunder from the depths rumbled all about. Geely disappeared, but Lin Feng continued running and jumping, marks appearing and intertwining as they transformed. The pitch-black shadows continued moving towards Lin Feng, slicing the air on their way. Lin Feng grunted grimly, standing there like an indestructible mountain. He raised both hands and a purple river tank emitted whistling sounds and oppressed the earth and the sky. At the same time, dazzling swords streaked across the sky and collided with the claws, emitting metallic sounds. Threads of qi penetrated into Lin Feng's body. He suddenly felt ice cold. Die! Snarled Lin Feng icily. At the same time, the deployment lights under his feet were flared with light. His gigantic life and death pattern blotted out the sky. The life and death strength was becoming denser and denser. He's almost done carving a great deployment spell. Some people blurted out. They were astonished and staring at Lin Feng. He was so fast at casting deployment spells, and his deployment spells were so powerful. Geely's ghost attacks were sly and dangerous, but his Dao strength was less powerful than Lin Feng's, and Lin Feng's Demon King was still attacking his soul. Geely had the sensation he was going to die. Geely noticed that he didn't have the advantage. Suddenly, ghosts started wailing furiously. The earth and the sky as well as Lin Feng's godly awareness were shaking violently. At that moment, Lin Feng realized that his soul was shaking and that many demonic demons were rushing over towards him, wanting to devour his soul. At that moment, Lin Feng closed his eyes and perceived everything clearly. Suddenly, he was surrounded by blinding lights as a bodhisattva appeared, golden and indestructible. Anything that was evil disappeared around it. Akalanatha curse. Do Zhanseng was astonished and staring at Lin Feng, his golden eyes wide and shining. The Akalanatha curse was an incredible curse that could oppress evil. Lin Feng isn't a Buddhist and he knows the Akalanatha curse. Do Zhanseng's eyes kept shining. Lin Feng's Akalanatha body emitted crackled and hummed. At the same time, terrifying evil energies rolled in waves towards Lin Feng. Die! Shouted Lin Feng explosively. His Nihility Death Sword streaked across the sky, carrying some demon curse strength along with it. Even though he could not curse Geely to death, he could at least make his soul shake violently and easily injure him. Lin Feng flashed away. His life and death deployment spell turned into a gigantic death picture and enveloped Geely. Lin Feng continued moving forwards and releasing World of the Living Imprints. Everything was exploding around them. Geely initially wanted to injure Lin Feng, but he was failing miserably. Lin Feng's World of the Living Imprints blasted apart Geely's gigantic ghost claws. Two ghosts still penetrated into Lin Feng's mind, trying to stop him and failing. Lin Feng released various cosmic energies of earth, death, demon, fire, cursing, and many others, which he condensed into his fist as he suddenly punched out. Even though Lin Feng could now use the cosmic energies of the earth and the sky, it was just the beginning, so they weren't extremely powerful yet. If his body and his actual cultivation level had progressed at the same pace, Lin Feng would have been much, much stronger. He could have made the cosmic energies of his own world and those of the outside world fuse together. But he was fighting against someone whose cultivation level was higher than his, and Lin Feng couldn't use pure strength such as cosmic energy to defeat him. The claws of Geely's ghosts crackled as he rose up in the air. Death intent kept penetrating into his body. His body was already filled with death chi. "Come down," shouted Lin Feng explosively. He stretched out his hands. Earth strength crashed down onto Geely. A cage appeared around him as Lin Feng rose up in the air. Geely shouted furiously. He attacked the cage, which exploded, trying to run away, but when he looked at Lin Feng's eyes, more Death Dao intent penetrated into his brain. An endless number of Death Sword energies moved towards him. At that moment, Geely was certain he was going to die. It was a horrible feeling. Arg! A fearsome ghost king shot towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng took a step backwards, while at the same time, Geely was trying to run away. Lin Feng looked at him, a thread of Dao intent moving into his third eye. Lin Feng looked at Geely and asked indifferently, "Do we need to continue fighting?" Geely's face was black from death strength. He was humiliated that he had lost once again. Initially, he was the third cultivator on the list, and now he had lost against Chu Chunqiu, Dou Zhanseng, and even Lin Feng. "No need. You won't see me for 3 years, said Geely. He rolled up his sleeves and abruptly left, vanishing like a ghost over the horizon. The crowd looked at Lin Feng strangely. He had defeated Geely. He was now the 5th cultivator on the imperial ranking list. Even Pei Donglai was astonished. He initially wanted Geely to crush Lin Feng. He hadn't thought Lin Feng would win. Chapter 1965. Buddha and Demon Battle. Lin Feng had defeated Geely. The dazzling imperial ranking list changed once again. Lin Feng had now replaced Geely. He was now the 5th cultivator on the list. The top 5 was now Ying Cheng, Chu Chunqiu, Ji Chang, Dou Zhanseng, and Lin Feng. At the beginning of the event, the top 5 were Ying Cheng, Ji Chang, Geely, Dou Zhanseng, and Shi Yunfeng. Ying Cheng and Dou Zhanseng's positions hadn't changed. Ji Chang had fallen 1 position. Geely and Shi Yunfeng had been kicked out of the top 10. The 2 cultivators who had surprised the crowd the most were Chu Chunqiu and Lin Feng. In the sky above the clouds, one of the old men on the chessboard looked happy. It was funny to see an old man's eyes twinkle like those of a child. He's only 5th. Ji Chang lost against Celestial Godly University. Are you happy about that? The old man of the ancient university was furious because Ancestor Shi Tian looked happy. Lin Feng is 5th, but what is his cultivation level? If Lin Feng had the same level as those above him in the list, you think he'd only be 5th in the ranking list? Said Ancestor Shi Tian smiled. That little boy could be a great emperor in 10 years, in which case he won't be able to participate in the Pathfinder Day of the Imperial ranking list. I hope he won't become strong too fast, so that you can all be amazed. Most people could participate in the Pathfinder Day of the Imperial ranking list twice. A first time when they were strong enough, such as at the beginning of the high Huangqi layer, and a second time at the top of the Huangqi layer. For example, people like Ho Qing Lin and Jian Mang hadn't ranked that well their first time, but 10 years later, they had ranked much better. Of course, If those geniuses became great emperors within 10 years, they wouldn't be able to participate in the event again. Ancestor Shi Tian thought that Lin Feng would probably break through to the Diqi layer and become a great emperor within 10 years. Ji Chang and Ying Qing had been at the top of the Huangqi layer for a long time already, but breaking through to the Diqi layer wasn't easy. Cultivators needed to find an opportunity to do so. The other old men smiled at Ancestor Shi Tian and rolled their eyes. Ji Chang had lost against Chu Chunqiu and Ancestor Shi Tian was still smiling, as if he had forgotten about that. We don't know what the situation will be like in 10 years. Maybe other geniuses will rise and will defeat the current geniuses, said the old man of Four Seasons University coolly. He was furious. There was no cultivator from Four Seasons University in the top 5. 10 years from now, he hoped they'd have a cultivator in the top 3. Hee, we'll see, replied Ancestor Shi Tian, narrowing his eyes and gazing into the distance. Could that little boy continue rising in the ranking list? He was excited. Lin Feng was a medium-level emperor and he had already achieved such great things. Everybody gazed into the distance. The real winners of this event were Lin Feng and Chu Chunqiu. Chu Chunqiu's cultivation speed was astonishing and his sky-absorbing Dao incredible. He could absorb people's vitality and willpower. His attacks were powerful and his powers mysterious. Lin Feng's understanding of Dao's strength was astonishing too. He was also the only one who had managed to make the bell ring 13 times, astonishing everybody. At the same cultivation level, he could have defeated everybody else, and his battle against Geely was the proof. Everybody looked at Lin Feng again. How incredible, he had surprisingly defeated Geely, and was now the 5th cultivator on the imperial ranking list. And he was only a medium-level emperor. It was an incredible achievement. His chi and cosmic energies were far more powerful than his cultivation level. People didn't understand him. The Pathfinder Day of the imperial ranking list is finally over, everyone was thinking. The event had been incredible. They had seen the strongest geniuses of the Holy City, and they were all extraordinary. The crowd didn't want the event to end, they enjoyed it too much. Can I choose my opponent myself now? Lin Feng asked Pei Donglai indifferently. Lin Feng understood what Pei Donglai had tried to do. He had tried to infuriate Geely to make him fight even harder, hoping Geely would kill Lin Feng. He still wants to ask for his path? The audience was delighted. Pei Donglai had chosen all of Lin Feng's opponents. Lin Feng had accepted and won each time. He could still continue fighting. Pei Donglai was astonished and looked at him icily. From behind him, Ren Tianxing shouted, "Donglai, let him choose his opponent." All right, Pei Donglai obeyed. His silhouette flickered and he withdrew to the top of the flight of stairs. Lin Feng looked at Do Zhanseng and said, "Do Zhanseng, you're from a Buddhist clan and you understand Buddhism. I would like to exchange views on cultivation with you." "Your Excellency, you know the Akalanatha curse, it seems like we Buddhist brothers," said Do Zhanseng calmly. He slowly walked forwards to stand before Lin Feng motionlessly. "I wouldn't dare call myself a Buddhist. I'm just interested in Buddhism." "To me, you a great Buddhist master," Lin Feng replied calmly. Then, he sat down cross-legged and stared at Do Zhanseng, who looked at him curiously and asked, "What are you doing?" "I would like you to teach me how to obtain nirvana," said Lin Feng evenly. The Buddhist warrior was surprised, but nodded. He also sat down cross-legged. His body became dazzling and golden, like a solemn image of Buddha. Many illusions appeared in the sky, and started chanting Buddhist mantras. "Master, you are a Buddhist cultivator, I'm a demon cultivator," Lin Feng said calmly. Demon lights appeared behind him, and gradually a gigantic silhouette appeared. That person was holding a gigantic sword in his right hand and a destructive hell lotus in his left, surrounded by death chi that could bury the sky. He looked proud and awe-inspiring, able to crush the planet with his feet. Do Zhanseng looked solemn and respectful, his golden body dazzling. His lips started moving, chanting mantras in a clear, melodious, pure, deep, and far-reaching Brahma voice which resonated all around them. Suddenly, many bodhisattvas surrounded Lin Feng's demon, and he started hallucinating. The Buddhist energies were purifying Lin Feng's demon energies with crackling holy power. Life strength suddenly emerged from the demon. At the same time, black lights fought back against the golden light. An inky black demon territory appeared around Lin Feng, and an evil qi started surrounding the Buddhist energies. The demon energies were regaining ground. Shattering sounds spread as the energies met, a mysterious strength rising up. The source of the 9 netherworlds appeared around the demons slowly. 9 netherworlds! The watchers were astonished. They raised their heads and looked at the 9 netherworlds' water. The whole sky turned dark. 2 kinds of strength kept colliding in the air. The audience also started hearing demonic songs. 9 netherworlds' demonic song. When the old men in the sky heard the melody, they were astonished. Lin Feng could surprisingly sing the 9 netherworlds' demonic song. What an incredible guy! Ancestor Shirtion looked delighted and whispered, "What an incredible guy!" The other old men looked stunned. Even people who had a cultivation level as high as theirs didn't have easy access to such powers. It was one of the demon songs created by the Netherworld Demon Emperor back in the days, and this Lin Feng knew it. That boy practices demon cultivation and is walking on the path of life and death. He'll definitely become a terrifying demon cultivator in the future. Do Zhanseng was amazed at all this, and released even more golden Buddhist energies. A Buddha's halo illuminated the surroundings with awesome power. Some Buddha's halo ancient imprints appeared and moved towards Lin Feng. Chapter 1966, 4th on the imperial ranking list? The Buddha's halo illuminated everything. It was dazzling as it purified the demon strength. When the Buddhist energies reached Lin Feng, a new destructive strength manifested, like millions of blades were attacking Lin Feng. However, Lin Feng remained calm. Demon intent rose to the skies. The sky was growing darker and darker, pressing in on the golden light. The 9 netherworlds song kept resonating in the air. People could actually see the sound waves. Some threads of dark energies appeared on Do Zhanseng's golden body. Do Zhanseng's eyes were dazzling. He looked at Lin Feng and said, "An evil demon can surprisingly resist against a Buddha. Isn't it like a Haruka?" Lin Feng replied to Do Zhanseng slowly. Do Zhanseng looked stunned. Haruka? The cultivation world is about strength. Buddhist and demon energies are just 2 different types of strength, Lin Feng said calmly. Do Zhanseng was surprised. He had mixed feelings, but he tried not to think about those things. He had to remain perseverant. His Buddha's halo became even more dazzling. Buddhism is about life. Diabolism is about life too. The line between Buddhism and Satanism is just a thin one. You can create your strength using both types of strength, said Lin Feng. He continued singing the 9 netherworld song. The minds of the audience were rapidly getting muddled by the song. Whether you are a Buddhist or a Satanist, in the end, when you die, you'll become a skeleton and you'll turn to powder. I am a demon cultivator, but I am perseverant and determined. Even Buddhists can't influence me, said Lin Feng. His voice resonated in Do Zhanseng's head. For Lin Feng, it didn't matter whether he was a Buddhist or a demon cultivator. In the end, his purpose was the same. They were just different paths to the same place. The goal of Buddhist warriors is to fight, said Do Zhanseng. His golden lights condensed and a Buddha emerged from his body, slowly moving towards Lin Feng, exuding enormous strength. Buddhist ways of obtaining nirvana are really complex, thought Lin Feng. He sensed the Buddha's halo, and death wheels appeared in those Buddhist lights. The demon song kept oppressing it and the atmosphere was still becoming darker. People are alive. Even Buddhism is about reincarnation. People can't escape from death, whispered Lin Feng. An endless number of demons appeared in the sky and started fighting against all those Buddhist light beams. His demons looked like demon kings. Do Zhanseng looked at the demons in the sky, and finally he couldn't keep calm anymore. Lin Feng's understanding of strength was just too astonishing. The demon kings kept getting bigger and bigger, and the source of the 9 netherworlds kept flowing out and destroying the demon lights. You're a demon cultivator. I'll show you what a demon god should look like, said Do Zhanseng slowly. Suddenly, he closed his eyes and started whispering things under his breath. Lin Feng saw a demon god move towards him. The demon king was holding a steel fork which contained explosive demon energies. Bodhisattvas could also be like demon kings. The crowd was stunned. Surprisingly, Do Zhanseng, who was a Buddhist warrior, could also release Yaksa kings like Gili. And that Yaksa king looked like the real thing, an ancient demon god. Everything is about your perceptions and motives. Buddhists are similar to Diabolists, whispered Lin Feng. The Yaksa king released demon chi in awful waves. Lin Feng just closed his eyes, remaining perseverant and determined. The Yaksa king appeared in front of him while Lin Feng remained motionless. Thunder rumbled out, and the Yaksa king disappeared. Do Zhanseng was dumbfounded. How do you know? Asked Do Zhanseng to Lin Feng. I've been to hell. I've read many books. Among those books, I read a book about Buddhist and demon cultivation. There were many skills which contained demon spells for Buddhist cultivators. There was a mysterious ghost spell in it too. I've always thought that there was no difference between demon and Buddhist cultivation. If you want to read that book, I can show it to you, said Lin Feng to Do Zhanseng. You would? Do Zhanseng frowned. Why wouldn't I? Lin Feng smiled. Dazzling lights twinkled in his third eye and some memories moved towards Do Zhanseng's third eye. The book slowly appeared in Do Zhanseng's memories. Then he whispered, I feel ashamed, I was protecting myself. As Lin Feng had started transmitting the book to Do Zhanseng had protected himself, suspecting Lin Feng harbored bad intentions. People are like that, I'm not offended, replied Lin Feng with a calm smile. Initially, it was a great battle, I wouldn't have thought such a thing would happen, laughed Do Zhanseng. Everybody was astonished as they watched the two of them. We came here to ask for our path. Cultivation is about competing, but we compete to find our path. Who cares about the imperial ranking list? Said Lin Feng. He suddenly sounded like an enlightened person. Do Zhanseng stood up and sighed. I feel inferior, he said, and then he simply left. His Buddhist lights disappeared, and only demon intent remained. Lin Feng, when you have time, come to the Canaan Buddhist clan. Do Zhanseng called back loudly. The audience was stunned at this strange ending. Was the event finally over? The crowd looked at Lin Feng, who was still seated cross-legged. They were speechless. Lin Feng had defeated Gili, and now he had made Do Zhanseng feel ashamed of being inferior to the extent that he had left. Lin Feng didn't even glance at the audience. His demon king was still behind him, sensing the energies of the earth and the sky. His demon strength turned into life strength. Demon Kulpa strength also appeared in a dazzling display. Demon Kulpa. Those watching were astonished. Lin Feng's demon lights were growing denser and denser. Lin Feng looked up at the sky and smiled. He stood up slowly and took a deep breath. Once again, the Devamara Kulpa strength was coming to cleanse his body. He was going to become stronger again, and getting closer and closer to becoming a high-level emperor. The Devamara Kulpa strength descended from the sky and bombarded him. His body was flaring with light. The crowd was amazed as they watched him receiving the Devamara Kulpa strength with his physical body. He wasn't even using cosmic energies to resist. His physical strength was terrifying. The waves of Devamara Kulpa strength kept bombarding his physical body, and his soul kept shaking. His soul was becoming stronger, more stable. The reason why Lin Feng could resist was because his soul was extremely strong, a very important thing when being cleansed by Devamara Kulpa strength. The old men in the sky were moved. Ancestor Shirtian looked delighted. He was extremely happy and couldn't wait for Lin Feng to become a high-level emperor. The other old men kept staring at him and then at Lin Feng. If Lin Feng became a higher rank, he would become even more enigmatic and unfathomable. As a medium-level emperor, he could already rank 4th. He had made Gili and Do Zhanseng leave in shame. They understood that Lin Feng's comprehension abilities were astonishing. In a world where people were extremely conceited, everybody just wanted to be strong. 4th in the imperial ranking list, medium-level emperor. Ancestor Shirtian looked like a happy kid. The old man of ancient university grunted icily. Hee hee, Do Zhanseng is quite strong. He felt ashamed of being inferior. He will definitely become a champion someday, proclaimed Ancestor Shirtion, smiling at the old man from ancient university. The old man ground his teeth and tried to punch Ancestor Shirtion. But it was the Pathfinder Day of the Imperial ranking list, and Celestial Godly University and Champion University were the real champions of the event. The first and second cultivator of the Imperial ranking list were from the Celestial Godly University. Ying Cheng had been first for ages, and now Chu Chunqiu was rising. And even though Ji Chang, who was from Champion University, had been defeated by Chu Chunqiu, Lin Feng was rising, so they were happy. Now he was the fourth cultivator in the list. In the future, Lin Feng would maybe rank first or second. It's finally over, sighed the crowd. The event had been incredible. Dao. At that moment, all the strong cultivators released Dao. They all felt more determined than ever. The two most astonishing cultivators of the event were definitely Lin Feng and Chu Chunqiu. Even though Ying Cheng had fought only once, he had amazed everybody. His map of several countries and their altars to the gods of earth and grain was incredible and had caused chaos everywhere. It was as if he could destroy the 10,000 things of creation. And even though Ji Chang was now the third cultivator, people had no doubt about his strength. He was incredible. In the future, Lin Feng would possibly become a new champion. As the crowd was sighing, Lin Feng looked at Ji Chang with his death eyes. He said evenly, Ji Chang, come here. Chapter 1967, Explosive Battle. Ji Chang, come here. Suddenly, everybody went silent. Everybody was staring at Lin Feng. Lin Feng wanted to continue asking for his path? He wanted to fight against champion Ji Chang? Lin Feng was the one who had fought the most battles. At the beginning of the event, he was 20th something, and now he was already 4th. And now he still wanted to fight against Ji Chang? Good little boy. Ancestor Shirtion was stupefied and happy. That young man still wanted to continue fighting. He wanted to finish the battle they had begun a year before. Ji Chang was surrounded by lights as he jumped forwards, and the crackling of air being destroyed rang out. He started releasing incredible amounts of destructive strength and threw himself at Lin Feng. Back then, Lin Feng had fought against him on the day of his champion ceremony, a terrible humiliation. Initially, he was supposed to be the hero of that day, but because of Lin Feng, all people remembered was their battle. But he couldn't get his revenge within the university didn't allow it. However, now, Lin Feng was challenging him in front of everyone, so now Ji Chang was finally going to be able to regain face. Cyan lights pulsed, and a 100-meter-long thread of cyan energies appeared. Some shadows appeared and more thunder rumbled out. Lin Feng could already sense the destructive energies. Lin Feng jumped forwards unflinchingly as he started casting a deployment spell. However, Ji Chang stretched out his hand. Thunder shook as he destroyed the deployment spell which hadn't finished condensing. Lights continued flowing towards Lin Feng. Die, said Lin Feng icily. He released death intent towards Ji Chang, and a nihility sword appeared. A cyan dragon emerged from Ji Chang's body and protected his soul. At the same time, his destructive Dao destroyed Lin Feng's strength. Death intent corroded Ji Chang's body, and destructive Dao intent did the same to Lin Feng's body. The energies were very intense, and sufficed to pressure both of them. Die! Ji Chang jumped forwards and raised his fist. His dragons roared, and a beam of light shot towards Lin Feng. Earth! Lin Feng released Earth cosmic energy which protected his body. He released cursing cosmic energies to corrode Ji Chang's body, and started singing his 9 Netherworlds demonic song. Ji Chang's body turned black. Lin Feng flashed forwards, empty space deployment marks appearing under his feet. He started moving invisibly fast while releasing wind strength. He also released enough World of the Living imprints to blot out the sky, immediately destroying Ji Chang's technique. The imprints pounded down towards Ji Chang. Arg! 9 cyan dragons attacked the imprints, everything exploding above them. Lin Feng and Ji Chang were surrounded by a very sharp qi. A nihility sword turned into an infinity of death swords slicing through the air. At the same time, destructive Tao crashed onto Lin Feng's body. His blood started boiling and his soul was shaking. Life and death lights rotated around him and shot towards Ji Chang to stab at him. At the same time, Lin Feng moved like an arrow and released demon culpa strength at Ji Chang's hand. The air shrieked at the energies tearing through it. "You want to die," shouted Ji Chang explosively. He released even more destructive Tao with a crack of thunder. Lin Feng's muscles twitched. His blood was boiling. The two fighters kept attacking one another. A terrifying strength penetrated into Lin Feng's arms. Ji Chang grunted coldly. It was a difficult battle. Ji Chang shouted furiously. A terrifying dragon emerged from his mouth and shot towards Lin Feng, trying to devour him. "You'll die." Lin Feng looked at Ji Chang with his death eyes. He released Death Intent, a nihility sword, cursing strength, and 9 netherworld's demon lights, and all those energies crashed onto Ji Chang. At the same time, more lights emerged from Lin Feng's third eye, turning into a palace. Millions of sharp swords drove towards Ji Chang serpent-quick. Lights flared in Ji Chang's eyes and rose to the skies, and his destructive Tao intent filled the air. Lin Feng was driven backwards. At the same time, he released World of the Living Imprints towards Ji Chang and hammered him, continuing his withdrawal. It was dangerous to fight in close combat against someone like Ji Chang. At that moment, Lin Feng had the impression that many of his bones were broken. His arms felt paralyzed. Ji Chang was a champion and controlled a powerful Tao intent, his attacks truly explosive. The audience sighed when they saw that he could still fight. Lin Feng's physical strength was really incredible. Lin Feng stretched out his hands, a river made of death energy flowed towards Ji Chang, even as he kept moving. He also released all sorts of cosmic energies to bombard Ji Chang unceasingly. At the same time, he kept releasing nihility swords. He didn't want to give Ji Chang a second of a breather. Ji Chang made some hand seals and released his own ancient imprints. Dazzling cyan lights glittered, and cyan dragons kept attacking Lin Feng. Tao transformation. Lin Feng stared at the dragons. He saw demon dragons moving towards him. The earth and the sky were shaking. The dragons roared furiously. Many illusion lights appeared. Lin Feng waved his hands and demon death dragons coalesced and winged towards the cyan dragons. Dragons collided loudly and exploded. Lin Feng moved forwards again, the earth and the sky shaking with the force of the exploding dragons all around. Ji Chang felt the pressure, while the audience was stupefied at the display. They hadn't anticipated that Lin Feng could compete with Ji Chang. Lin Feng looked both aggressive and crazy. 9 dragons rotated around Lin Feng. Lin Feng moved forwards and released even more death swords relentlessly. Ji Chang was a champion. How could he flinch before Lin Feng? He also started moving forwards. The ground exploded all around them. They were moving so fast that embers appeared under their feet. Their qi started colliding in all directions. People's hearts were pounding violently. "Lightning!" shouted Lin Feng explosively. Lightning appeared everywhere and plunged towards Ji Chang. Ji Chang grunted icily. He looked at the sky and raised his hands. He destroyed some bolts, but Lin Feng continued releasing more lightning cosmic energies. Fire! Flames appeared everywhere and converged on Ji Chang. Ji Chang frowned. Lin Feng's cosmic energies didn't pose much of a threat to him, but he couldn't ignore them either. His physical strength wasn't like Lin Feng's. Lin Feng could resist high-level Emperor's physical attacks. Desolate! Curse! Death! Lin Feng released all sorts of cosmic energies at Ji Chang, who could only look at him icily. Cyan dragons reappeared around him and wrapped him up. However, Lin Feng just grunted and released demon culpa strength to attack him. Ji Chang was losing patience and attacked Lin Feng with cosmic energies. The two fighters were getting closer and closer. Ji Chang took a deep breath. Lights glittered. This time, he had to really hammer Lin Feng. Lin Feng knew cosmic energies, so what? He just had to protect himself and attack him at the same time. Ji Chang shouted explosively, and Lin Feng's soul shook. It felt like both fighters could explode anytime. Death swords appeared everywhere and drove through Ji Chang's head. Both fighters kept attacking one another. They couldn't be careless, or they could die anytime. However, the death swords weren't that easy to destroy. This time, they even contained cursing demon strength and all sorts of cosmic energies which penetrated into Ji Chang's skull. He couldn't destroy them that easily, they seemed almost indestructible. Ancient King appeared behind Ji Chang and charged Lin Feng. At the same time, a demon emerged from Lin Feng's third eye. The Demon King was holding a lotus and a gigantic death sword containing 9 netherworlds intent. It also attacked Ji Chang. Boom! Ji Chang's Ancient King broke apart. People's hearts pounded at the sight. The Demon King looked fearless as it attacked Ji Chang's body. Chapter 1968. Cyan Dragon Secret Technique. Ji Chang released cyan dragons to protect his soul. They roared in a thundering rage and attacked Lin Feng's Demon King. The Demon King slowly cracked. Ji Chang was extremely strong, and such people couldn't be killed that easily, unlike ordinary emperors. They had incredible spells and techniques to protect themselves. They could use their soul, their godly awareness, and their Tao intent. Lin Feng's demon god was made of Tao strength and soul strength. It crashed onto Ji Chang's head. Its gigantic death sword was made of death Tao intent. The cyan dragon kept roaring furiously. If his cyan dragon was destroyed, his soul would be destroyed. "Piss off!" shouted Ji Chang furiously. The cyan dragon roared furiously, bearing fangs and brandishing claws. "Break!" Lin Feng couldn't give Ji Chang any time. Ji Chang's destructive Tao could destroy his deployment spells, so he didn't waste time casting them. Explosions kept going off, and cosmic energies were everywhere, tearing at the air. The cyan dragon turned into 9 and moved in 9 directions around Lin Feng. At the same time, Ji Chang stretched his hand out and a terrifying cyan dragon moved towards Lin Feng's head. "Die!" Lin Feng raised his hand, and Death Kulpa swords cut apart everything. Cosmic energies twinkled and rotated. World of the living imprints kept emerging from his hands, and the earth and the sky kept shaking. Lin Feng ran forwards and shouted, "You will lose!" His voice contained demon cursing strength and resonated in Ji Chang's head. He couldn't flinch. Lin Feng moved like the wind with an indomitable will. Ji Chang's eyes were glowing madly. He didn't retreat, instead jumping forwards and turned into a cyan dragon. His chi was astonishing, threatening to bring down the sky. Lin Feng stretched his hand out and empty space lights condensed. Ji Chang's attack arrived at the same time, and thunder boomed as his destructive strength crashed down. Lin Feng's deployment marks were destroyed before the destructive energies continued moving towards Lin Feng, but the chi wasn't as powerful as a moment before. "Die!" At that moment, Lin Feng shouted furiously and released desolate cursing sound strength. Immortal energy pulsed out. The Demon King assaulted Ji Chang's cyan dragon. Cosmic strength emerged from Lin Feng's left hand, World of the Living Imprints emerged from his right hand. Ji Chang and Lin Feng's cosmic energies collided. However, the World of the Living Imprints appeared again. Ji Chang couldn't destroy them. He raised his fist as cyan dragons roared. The World of the Living Imprints crashed onto Ji Chang's body like endless hammers, destroying some of his cyan dragons. Ji Chang was sent crashing into a pillar, coughing up blood. He just closed his eyes, firmed his resolve, and cyan dragons emerged and struck out again. Lin Feng was driven backwards as well, his arms all sore. He was staring at Ji Chang. The champion was indeed really strong. "You lost," said Lin Feng, smiling proudly. The crowd shivered in disbelief. Lost? Ji Chang had lost against Ying Cheng and Chu Chunqiu. Had he lost against Lin Feng now? The champion? 3 defeats? What a humiliation, just like Geely. Lin Feng knows too many things: soul attacks, skills, techniques, spells, ancient imprints, all sorts of cosmic energies. He's relentless and brave. Fighting against Lin Feng is a nightmare. The crowd chattered as they watched Lin Feng. Chu Chunqiu and Lin Feng were truly incredible. Chu Chunqiu's strength had amazed everybody, but he was a high-level emperor after all. Lin Feng was just a medium-level emperor. There was a huge difference between medium-level emperors and high-level emperors. And Ji Chang was also a champion, so he was even stronger than those people. "The battle is not over," said Pei Donglai indifferently. He asked Ji Chang, "Ji Chang, do you think you lost?" Lin Feng was startled and looked at Pei Donglai. Ji Chang released a terrifying strength at that moment. Lin Feng was stunned. Lin Feng flashed forwards. Ji Chang opened his eyes and shouted furiously. A terrifying cyan dragon appeared and dashed to the skies. Ji Chang's body was surrounded by brilliant cyan lights. The cyan dragon turned into a column of light. Arg! The dragon roared in a thundering rage. Lin Feng's soul shook violently. The demon king in Ji Chang's mind was propelled away and slowly disappeared. Ji Chang's chi suddenly became much more powerful. The cyan dragon mysterious technique of the Ji clan. The crowd frowned. Surprisingly, Ji Chang was using the mysterious technique of the Ji clan. He initially had the strength of a high-level emperor, but with that technique, he could have the strength of a great emperor. According to legends, when you use the cyan dragon mysterious technique, you have to pay the price for it. You need to recover for a very long time. Ji Chang wasn't far from becoming a great emperor, but he's going insane now. He doesn't want to lose. The crowd was astonished. His chi stopped becoming stronger. He looked like a real king, arrogant and proud. He didn't care about his injuries anymore. Lin Feng looked over at Pei Donglai. Pei Donglai knew that Ji Chang had a mysterious technique, which was why he had said the battle wasn't over. He's insane. Ji Chang didn't use his mysterious technique against Ying Qing or Chu Chunqiu, but he doesn't want to lose a third time, especially against Lin Feng. Everyone sighed. If he fought against Ying Qing and Chu Chunqiu again, they wouldn't be able to win. His chi was already the chi of the Di Chi layer. Ji Chang flickered and suddenly disappeared. A king emerged from his body and attacked Lin Feng's soul. He wanted to get his revenge for all the attacks Lin Feng had just carried out. "Collapse!" he roared out. Lin Feng suddenly had the sensation his body was going to explode and his bones were going to be crushed. If he hadn't had an incredible physical strength, he would have died. Lin Feng was frozen. Ji Chang had the strength of a great emperor at this moment. When Ji Chang saw that Lin Feng resisted his attack, he looked even more furious. The ancient king moved towards Lin Feng's third eye. "Die!" Death chi exploded out, and Ji Chang grunted icily. There was another explosion, and Lin Feng was hurled away. Ancestor Shirtian frowned and the old man next to him chortled, Which of the two students of Champion University do you prefer?" "Shut up," said Ancestor Shirtian, continuing to watch. Ji Chang was a real bastard, and truly sly. What a little person. Many people from the Yin clan and the Pei clan finally had cause to smile. Finally, Lin Feng was going to shut up. He would stop being arrogant. Finally, Ji Chang was truly furious. Lin Feng looked at him icily and said, "You surprisingly used a mysterious technique during such an event. You better not blame me." Ji Chang jumped forwards and a terrifying strength surrounded Lin Feng. At the same time, the ancient king forced Lin Feng's demon away and attacked him. Death strength appeared in Lin Feng's eyes. Chapter 1969. Ridiculous. The battle in Lin Feng's mind was insane. Ji Chang's ancient king was fighting against his ancient demon and Lin Feng was using his godly awareness palace to protect his soul. "The Sky Palace, what's the date tonight?" asked a mysterious voice. The godly awareness palace flared up and blocked the ancient king. The demon king jumped. Raising his left hand, he wanted to kill Ji Chang's ancient king, flying towards it and raised his gigantic death sword. The ancient king roared furiously and raised his hands. Their fists collided and they both dispersed at the same time. Outside, Ji Chang and Lin Feng were both bleeding and their faces had turned deathly pale. The ancient king and the demon king had made them use up lots of soul strength. They were both getting tired. Ji Chang roared with rage. Cyan dragon lights dashed to the skies. Lin Feng released a terrifying amount of life qi. Ji Chang ran forwards, everything cracking and breaking down around him. Lin Feng's bones felt like they were going to explode. Lin Feng took a deep breath, smiling crazily. "He's going to die," said Pei Dongqing, smiling icily. Lin Feng wanted his younger brother to steal Pei Dongqing's woman. He was going to die now. Lin Feng, Meng Qing and many other people were astonished. Many people were shouting now. Lin Feng had to admit his defeat. It was better than dying. "Ji Chang, you're a high-level emperor and you dare use your mysterious and ancient technique against me? Do you deserve being called a champion? Do you deserve the champion crown?" said Lin Feng in a demonic voice. He was trying to destroy Ji Chang's willpower. A tree appeared indistinctly behind him. Heavenly Grace Godly Tree. Many people were astonished when they recognized the godly wood. Cosmic strength was rotating around it. He's a medium-level emperor and he's already been to Godly Wood Valley and a tree has acknowledged him? Those watching were astonished. Lin Feng was truly an incredible genius. Very quickly, a white lotus appeared indistinctly. And then a beautiful blue Uptala lotus appeared under Lin Feng's feet. "You're using the godly wood and a blue Uptala lotus. That's not your own strength," said Pei Donglai icily. "Shut the hell up," shouted Lin Feng back explosively. He looked at Pei Donglai coldly and said, "On the Pathfinder Day of the Imperial ranking list, the great Imperial Palace's people are in charge. However, you've constantly been trying to disadvantage me. Do you think I'm stupid? Ji Chang's mysterious technique is not his own strength, it's a cyan dragon strength. You're ridiculous. If the managers of the event are like you, then it would be the same without you, or even better." The crowd sighed with empathy. Indeed, Ji Chang's mysterious technique wasn't his own power, and without it he would have definitely lost. He was borrowing the strength of an ancient cyan dragon. Lin Feng's tree and lotus were similar. He could borrow strength from them. Pei Donglai pulled a long face. He was a disciple of the great Imperial Palace and they were in charge of the event. And now someone dared insult them? "Even if you use an external source of strength, it won't change anything," said Ji Chang icily. He raised his arms, which looked like illusionary dragons. Lin Feng ignored him. He slowly raised his hand and suddenly condensed all sorts of cosmic energies: wind, fire, lightning, cursing. The air was completely distorted around him. An endless amount of cosmic energies condensed in Lin Feng's hands. Light beams streaked across the sky. The energies turned into a black lotus, looking more and more real. The crowd was astounded. What kind of Tao intent was that? The Heavenly Grace Godly would allowed Lin Feng to use all sorts of cosmic energies. And this Tao intent allowed him to condense all sorts of cosmic energies. When the crowd looked at Lin Feng's black lotus, they all shuddered. Ji Chang stopped in astonishment. That black lotus was dangerous. He remained silent for a few seconds, but then he raised his great imperial qi once more. Ji Chang is getting ready to fight, thought the crowd. They sensed that Ji Chang was getting ready. He was condensing his energies and the air became even thicker. Lin Feng and Ji Chang's energies started colliding. They both looked like ancient kings. After a long time, they finally started advancing forwards. The crowd was shaking. The two fighters drew closer and closer to one another. A gigantic cyan dragon flew towards Lin Feng's black lotus. The black lotus grew to a gigantic size. The eruption of light blinded the crowd as waves of energies rumbled out. They couldn't see Lin Feng and Ji Chang anymore. They had disappeared in the energies. Wild discharges ripped out in every direction. "Get down," shouted Pei Donglai. Everyone jumped off the celestial imperial pillars as a destructive force swept over them. Their hearts were pounding at the close call. Those guys went too far. Ji Chang and Lin Feng were both from Champion University and they were risking their lives. Death Qi pulsed and surged on the stage. Everything had dispersed. The crowd saw Ji Chang and Lin Feng again. They were seated cross-legged and had changed their clothes already, but their hair was still messy, and they were still bleeding. Ji Chang put a pellet in his mouth. Lin Feng released life qi. The godly wood tree appeared indistinctly. They're both badly injured, observed the crowd in astonishment. They were both severely injured. How to rank them on the imperial ranking list? Many people looked at Pei Donglai. The members of the Great Imperial Palace were in charge of the imperial ranking list. Lin Feng had the advantage, then Ji Chang used his mysterious technique. Now they're both badly injured. Lin Feng should rank third, said Ho Qing Lin calmly. Some people nodded. Ji Chang used his mysterious technique, but Lin Feng used his ancient tree and lotus. It helped him a lot. Ji Chang won, retorted some people from the Ji clan. Indeed, said Pei Donglai, nodded agreement. He looked at Lin Feng and said, Lin Feng, you borrowed too much strength. You're fourth. Are you okay with that? Lin Feng released more life chi, opening his eyes and looking at Pei Donglai. If I say I'm not okay with that, will you rank me third? I won't, replied Pei Donglai indifferently. Then why do you need to talk shit? Lin Feng said serenely. Pei Donglai's face stiffened. Pei Donglai groaned icily. You're lucky I'm telling you. Besides, the event is over, so now Yin Rui is going to announce Yin Yu's wedding. Last time, you asked if your younger brother could get married to her. Well, so sorry about that. The members of the Yin clan looked furious, especially Yin Rui. He was the one who was supposed to announce Yin Yu's wedding, and Pei Donglai had spoken up first. Now they couldn't say anything anymore. However, Lin Feng just looked unmoved. He looked at Pei Donglai and smiled mockingly. The members of the Great Imperial Palace are in charge of managing this event. It's been many years. You have power in the holy city, that's just symbolic. However, if you mess around with the imperial ranking list, people won't care about it anymore, said Lin Feng in a disdainful way. I don't care whether I'm third or fourth on your stupid list. I know how strong I am. You can remove my name from your list if you want. We'll see if people will still care about it. You need such a list to have power. The people on it don't need to be on it. If you want, you can even put my name at the bottom of the list. I don't give a shit, said Lin Feng, pointing at Pei Donglai. He was making fun of Pei Donglai. Would Pei Donglai put Lin Feng's name at the bottom of the list? They just controlled the list, so it was useless. Chapter 1970, End of the Pathfinder Day. Pei Donglai looked at Lin Feng icily. The imperial ranking list gave them power in the holy city. Lin Feng was right. It was a symbol. Of course, he couldn't put Lin Feng's name at the bottom of the list. They needed a list, but cultivators didn't need one. It's impossible to say who won this battle. However, Lin Feng is a medium-level emperor. And he was fair in his battle against Ji Chang. He's third for now. They can fight again another day and we'll determine the winner then, said Ren Tianxing at that moment. Lin Feng's name appeared in the third position. The crowd looked at the imperial ranking list and everyone took a deep breath. Surprisingly, Lin Feng had risen up to the third position. Nobody had anticipated that. Now, he was as dazzling as Chu Chun Chiu. Pei Donglai looked at the list and remained silent. Lin Feng looked at Yin Rui, noticing that Yin Rui looked angry. If he had a choice, he would have killed Lin Feng without hesitation. Lin Feng looked at Yin Yu. Poor girl. Lin Feng turned around and looked at Pei Dongqing icily. He wanted to kill him. Pei Dongqing looked furious. Would Lin Feng dare kill him? You're third in the imperial ranking list. The event is over, said Pei Donglai calmly. Everybody was sad. They didn't want the event to finish. Finally, it was over. Lin Feng smiled indifferently. Back then, you reached the top of the list when you had the strength of the top of the Huang Qi layer. Lin Feng slowly stood up. He looked at Pei Donglai, the members of the Yin clan, and the crowd. He flitted over next to Meng Qing and said, "Let's go back to university." Wu Shang looked at Lin Feng and Yin Yu, but in the end he followed Lin Feng. They went back to the university. The top 10 of the imperial ranking list was now Ying Cheng, Chu Chun Chiu, Lin Feng, Ji Chang, Dou Zhansing, Gili, Shi Yunfeng, Xue Shenfeng, Yin Gutian, and Wang Zhong. There had been huge changes. Yin Rui slowly rose up into the air and said to Yin Gutian, "Gutian, go back to the clan and practice cultivation." "I understand," said Yin Gutian, nodding stiffly. The two young people of the Yin clan couldn't join the great imperial palace. The event had been tragic for Yin Gu Tian. "Brother Pei," said Yin Rui to a strong cultivator of the Pei clan with a smile. The strong cultivator of the Pei clan said, "Brother Yin Rui, I'll personally come to the Yin clan to propose a marriage alliance." The Pei clan and the Yin clan were big clans in the holy city. They had to be polite and friendly. "I see." Yin Rui nodded and didn't say much. Their two big clans were going to become allies. Lin Feng was extremely strong, but in the end, Yin Rui had to choose power over strength. The most furious clan wasn't the Pei clan or the Yin clan on this day, however. It was the Ji clan. Ji Chang, champion. A year ago, everybody admired him, and then Lin Feng had ruined his champion ceremony. Now, a year had passed, and on the Pathfinder day of the Imperial ranking list, Ji Chang had lost 3 times. He had lost against Ying Cheng, which didn't matter because Ying Cheng was extremely strong. But then he had lost against Chu Chunqiu and Lin Feng. How humiliating! However, the Ji clan had no choice but to admit that Chu Chunqiu and Lin Feng were extremely strong, especially Lin Feng. He only had the strength of a medium-level emperor, but he was already such an incredible cultivator. And now they could only wait for Ji Chang to recover from having used the mysterious technique. "I hope that Ji Chang won't give up," sighed the leader of the Ji clan. Ji Chang could only rely on his own self now. The crowd started dispersing. Maybe that all those geniuses would be at the top of the region of the Dark Night someday. Of course, nobody could anticipate and predict the future. Chu Chunqiu and Lin Feng were now famous in the Holy City, like Ying Cheng and Ji Chang. Many powerful clans knew their names now, especially since they had defeated Ji Chang the champion. Chu Chunqiu and Lin Feng had the potential to become champions, if they didn't die. Everybody went back to their clan holds. The Yin clan, the Pei clan, and the Ji clan tried to think of ways to get rid of Lin Feng. They all hated him, especially the Ji clan. In a palace in the Ji clan, many people looked glum. "Tell me what you think," the leader of the Ji clan asked them. "Lin Feng had that guy Blind Wheel. He caused trouble in our clan. He killed Ji Jiang, and now he beat Ji Chang. He must die," said a strong cultivator slowly. Everybody nodded agreement. The Ji clan had many enemies, but usually they didn't care about them too much. Even though Lin Feng was just one person, he was very talented and the Ji clan couldn't forget about him. The leader of the Ji clan was also convinced that Lin Feng would pose a threat to them sooner or later. Even though we don't know where he's from, we know he doesn't have a powerful background. He is backed up by some clans in the vast celestial ancient city. We'll have to be careful of them. But our biggest problem is Champion University. "I have a few suggestions," spoke up a middle-aged man. Many people looked at him. "Tell us," ordered the leader of the Ji clan. "Lin Feng's existence isn't a problem to us. It's even a good thing for Ji Chang. Lin Feng is talented, he will continue rising. Ji Chang will feel even more determined and motivated. He is a champion, he is very motivated and talented," began that person slowly. The leader of the Ji clan and the others nodded. Ji Chang was definitely very determined. Champions were always determined. He wasn't as talented as Lin Feng, but he was determined and nothing was impossible. However, we can always oppress him when we have opportunities. Just don't kill him, that way Champion University won't be able to say anything. "We'll see how Lin Feng will react," said the leader of the Ji clan. Everybody nodded consent. If Lin Feng was constantly oppressed, he wouldn't be able to rise and Ji Chang might manage to surpass him again at some point. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.